I'm 21.
Okay, what is your argument for capitalism?
Yeah, I mean, my specific critiques are going to be a bit dependent on the exact model of socialism or communism that you want to move to. But I think just like generally, we have reasons to believe that private ownership and markets align incentives in such a way that lead to an efficient allocation of labor and capital. And that leads to, in the long run at least, growth and prosperity for humans. So I think that's probably what it is.
Can you show that to us?
Uh, yeah, I mean, so for example, there are certain studies we have that will look at like the growth rate of places that have property rights versus the places that don't, and you can get like pretty reasonable comparisons.
Could
So,
you
for
just show
instance,
them
there's a
to us?
paper.
Hang on. What studies are you referencing?
Yeah, I can get you the exact one I'm explaining right now. This one is called Property Rights and Financial Development, the Legacy of Japanese Colonial Institutions. My understanding of this paper is that it looks at islands in Japan that established property rights before World War II. And during World War II, they essentially stopped instituting property rights regimes given on certain islands. And that gave a plausibly exogenous sort of random variation um, in which islands had or didn't have property rights. And that seems to have given us a good natural experiment. And we can see that the islands with property rights performed quite a bit better in terms of their economic outcomes.
Is Japan a capitalist country?
I think it is fair to consider Japan a capitalist country, yeah?
Okay, so like,
Wait, would
go
you
ahead,
disagree with that?
Sean. Hang on, go ahead, Sean.
What initiated Japan's growth of economy?
A lot of things. Their openness to world
There was
trade, I
only
think,
one
played a
thing.
big part in it. I think that all else equal, the institution of property rights also played a big role in it. I'm sure that there was some like import industrialization program or something that you're going to reference that I can concede maybe played a role too. But
They were forced to do global trade with the United States and Britain, and they were getting screwed. So, what constituted their economic growth?
well, I think forcing them to trade probably did help in terms of growth for them. Seems like we have decent evidence of
It
that.
didn't. It didn't.
It
We
didn't.
don't have any evidence of that.
Okay, so I can cite
Yes,
you.
but
I can
what
cite you some
constituted
papers.
their growth? There is no papers that show that the United States and Britain screwing over Japan helped them economically grow. There was one
Wait,
thing
wait,
that
wait. What are
constituted their
you? So,
economic growth, and it
are you
feels as
saying?
though you're avoiding it for a good reason.
No, no, no.
But
Wait,
I'm
just to be
telling you,
clear,
you're
when you
just
say
prolonging the inevitability.
there's no evidence as to Britain and the America screwing over Japan, that increasing economic growth. Are you saying does that? Are you also claiming in a more general sense Japan's openness to global trade didn't lead to growth, or only the types of
What
openness that led to?
constituted their economic growth? What constituted their economic growth?
I don't know what
Stop just delaying the
constituted means.
inevitability. What initiated their economic growth and continued their economic growth?
A variety. I mean, as far as I know, Japan has like
A variety of
been.
things. A variety
Yeah,
of things.
I
It
already
wasn't
listed some, but
it
also as
wasn't
far
their
as I know, Japan
imperialism.
has been on a like
It,
fairly stable growth trend. I don't think anything like, especially at
so
least
it
up until
wasn't
like the 1990s, um, it deviated them
so
substantially from that.
it wasn't their imperialism of China and atrocities in China that they stole resources from, and their imperialism of Korea and like atrocities in Korea to steal resources from both of these areas. That
Yeah,
didn't
so
constitute
I'm
their
not committed
economic
to the
growth at all.
claim that like imperialism can't lead to growth or whatever, or that like imperialist countries won't exploit their neighboring countries or colonies or whatever, right? I'm just committed to the claim that like all else equal, it seems like we have reasons to believe why
This
like
is very
private
funny.
property rights and private ownership lead to
He said, I don't want to
positive
talk
outcomes.
about the
Yeah,
imperialism.
because it was the private property that did it. It wasn't the imperialism and the atrocities of them unaliving people and stealing resources from a place.
Well, I think that probably for Japan, I can see how that would lead to some amount of growth. Now I think that actually, compared to the counterfactual, like it's going to lead to it might lead to less growth in the long run, just because by nature of how trade works, it actually, like, it can benefit your country if other countries are allowed to develop and allowed to become
This is just
wealthy.
speculation. I don't care about speculation.
That's just speculation?
I want to know about evidence. Yes. Because
Okay. Well, while we've been talking, like, I went digging through my notes, I found the paper. This is a paper that claims to find positive growth effects. We provide an empirical assessment of the comparative advantage gains from trade argument. We use Japan's 19th century opening up to the world to world commerce as a natural experiment to answer the following counterfactual. By how much would real income have had to increase in Japan during its final autarky years of 1851 to 1853 to afford the consumption bundle the economy could have obtained if it were engaged in international trade during that period? Using detailed historical data on trade flows, autarky... Oh my god, I can't finish the thing.
There's a problem with what you're saying. Oh, where did Sean go? Sean! There's a problem with what you're saying. This study that you're reading off is saying that it's because of trade. And communist countries also can engage in trade. So, like, you're just not really proving anything. Like, you're not proving that, like, capitalism is better than communism or anything like that.
Wait, I just want
You're
to...
also not looking at it. You're also not looking at it in a global context.
Yeah, the dialogue that got us here, to be clear, was specifically Sean claiming that there was not evidence that trade benefited Japan. This is a paper that tries to estimate specifically the extent to which trade benefited Japan.
That's not the claim that got us here. Your claim was that private property rights, you claimed that a study proved that having private property rights enhanced the economy or something to that effect. You can
So I think there's general evidence that was the first claim I made, but I just want to be clear. You guys agree that Sean said that there was not, in fact, empirical evidence for this, and then I said I can go dig up the study.
No, we're not agreeing to anything. I need to get to the meat and potatoes of your original claim, which was that private property. Could you say it again?
Are you guys denying that Sean literally, like, we disputed whether there was evidence about specifically?
I'm making an argument of my own, and I want to hear your original argument.
Here.
Yeah,
he isn't here.
Okay.
So I'm not making any claims about Sean's point of view. I'm just asking what your original argument is, because I have something to contest it. I'm kind of uniquely able to answer to your study.
Yeah. So what study?
So the original claim that you made is that private property, institutionalizing private property in certain islands of Japan, is what ultimately led to Japan's initial economic growth.
No. I said that
then
the fact that Japan...
I want to be very explicit here.
Yeah. So my claim was that generally we have reasons to believe that private ownership and markets lead to, like, good incentives for people that over the long run lead to economic growth, which, like, I think benefits human flourishing.
So
I think just makes us all better off.
I just want to be...
one piece of evidence for that was the Japanese islands.
So I want to be clear here that when we're talking about private property, we're not talking about personal property. Are you clear about the communist position on that?
Okay, in the context, I'm familiar with the Marxist lingo there. In the context here, what I mean by private property is not strictly private property in the Marxian sense. I think it just refers to broadly what we might consider like sort of like the ownership of capital, yes, but also the ability of people to... I say the word freely here, not... I understand you guys object to that, but to freely trade in goods and services and labor.
Yeah, so personal property in the context of the Marxist sense means that you can own things. You can certainly own things. When we talk about property, we're talking about capital as property. We're talking about property in the context of owning the means of production, right? So we're talking about not just like owning homes, just to be very clear. Is that what, am I getting to what, like, the difference of the argument that you're making?
I mean, yeah. Like I said, I understand the distinction between personal and private property in Marxist terms. But the paper is going to be looking at private property in a little bit broader sense than just the Marxist sense of the word private property.
So what type of private property was gotten rid of?
Was gotten
What
rid of.
specifically?
So they didn't.
Name
So
it.
Yeah,
I,
if you're saying
my
that there's a natural experiment that demonstrates that there were some property rights on some parts of the island and there weren't in others, is that
Yeah,
also accurate?
I just want him to tell me what the private property was.
yeah, my understanding is it was a I can read through some of it to jog my memory, but my understanding of it was essentially how lands were registered and able to be traded for on some of the islands.
So land.
Here, let me read. Japan imposed its
What
system of
about-
well-defined property
let's do
rights
this.
inland
Let's do
in some
this.
of its
Stop.
Asian
I
colonies,
don't-
including.
Don't,
Okay.
don't, please. I just want to ask a question. Did they get rid of the private ownership of the means of production?
No, I don't know what you mean.
No, they didn't.
I never
Great.
claimed that.
Thanks for answering.
Did I ever claim that? What?
So when we talk about that, that's why we're asking about the distinction of what kind of property you're discussing here, because land ownership is perfectly normal and actually acceptable and important under a communist political economy. One of the key aspects of institutionalizing any socialist reform, and in most cases, most leaders who have tried to implement socialism around the world have started by ensuring that people own their homes. So this claim about property has to be very explicitly clear in an academic sense. I'd also like to add that in any such case, currently Japan is absolutely getting dog walked in the economic stage. I actually am uniquely qualified to answer this question. I'm a political science and sociology double major, and I study specifically the economic history of Japan. I've been there multiple times. I've spent probably a total of 6 months there cumulatively, and I study some of the economic political practices that Japanese economists with any kind of reputation have said about their economy. And one thing that we know for certain is that the economic boom of Japan was almost entirely credited to tourism. Japan does not have a lot in the way of resources. And another element, as Sean aptly pointed out, is that the economic boom of Japan is also largely because of their imperial practices. So it's just not true that private property in the long term in any real capacity, in the way that you're using the term, has actually contributed to the Japanese economy, because the Japanese economy is suffering some of the worst possible indicators of economic impact for the public. I'm being very specific here because, of course, the elites are able to survive these kinds of conditions, but the public is some of the poorest that it's ever been.
In Japan? I think it's been fairly stagnant, but I don't know if they've been the poorest they've ever been.
The yen has steadily lost its value against the American dollar for the last 10 years. They're doing
why the exchange rates are not a good measure of the well-being of the average or median person.
So if you want to read some well academically sourced and specifically Japanese centered sourced material, I do have an article on Substack. It's called The Economic Seppuku of Japan, and I cite multiple academic sources about this, including Japanese economists.
I'm sure their argument is that the exchange rate is apparently a really good measure of the median welfare of someone in a country.
It's not about the exchange rate. It's about the actual.
That's a piece of evidence you cited.
The actual value that's located within Japan is very, very limited. They don't have a lot in the way of rare earth minerals, which in the end does not make them competitive economically. Their primary source of income at this time is tourism. So if we're talking about that, then we should understand that the market that they originally had was literally a quarter of it was Chinese tourism, which they have just institutionalized policy against. So I mean, if you want to get into the nitty gritty of it, the Japanese economy has been falling since 1986. And they actually had one of the worst economic falls that they ever had because of the fall of the yen associated with the semiconductor chip negotiation ordeal. So if you want to look into that, I really recommend that you do.
Yeah, sure. I'm familiar with Japan's, stagnation since like the 1990s. I'm familiar with that broad episode. Now, I don't think that you can prove that the welfare of the median Japanese person is declining or the lowest it ever has been based off of that. I think probably the median person in Japan is better off today than they were 100 years ago. But regardless of that, and I also think that the exchange rate is
Well, I
just
mean, if you're
not going to
comparing
be
it
a
to
good measure
feudalism,
anyways.
sure, but everybody's doing better than feudalism. Like, let's be so serious. The
Well,
entire world
I don't know.
might
I think you guys, or it's like a common talking point that things were the economy was so much better, even just like 100 years ago.
the communist talking
Even
point.
Sean, I don't know
The
if Sean is
communist
here
that
again,
is not the
but like even
communist
Sean
talking point.
told me the other day that
Maybe that's
she
something
thinks that
I'm not Sean. I'm not Sean.
Yeah, I
I just
know.
want to be very clear. I'm not Sean, and that is not the argument that I'm making. So you need to make an argument that stands on its own 2 feet when you're talking to me.
Okay, so I think that is a common perception or argument people make that the people are better off than 100 or are
What?
worse off than 100 years ago. But irrespective of
Yeah,
that, right?
I would
So
make the
to be
argument.
clear,
I would
I
make
never
the
made a
argument
claim.
that
I'm familiar with
I
the
can't
I would
stagnation
make
in
the
Japan,
argument
and I
that
never made a
development in general. I would make
I
the argument that development in general, regardless of the political economy, because of the inherent modernization that has occurred over the development of humankind, is the product of better living conditions internationally. Not because of capitalism or socialism, but that is true for any place that does not currently practice feudalism. Like, if your argument is that currently we are doing better than feudalism, yeah, because of science and technology and because of other advancements as a result of human evolution.
Okay, but we weren't,
not because of
just to be clear, we
a
weren't
specific
feudalist
political
100 years ago,
position.
right?
There were countries that were feudalist. There
right.
are countries that still have a blended feudalist political economies, just to be very clear, as a result of American imperialism in particular, and French imperialism, if we're being specific.
Okay, we meaning,
Yes.
typically when I say we, I'm going to mean the US. But
Okay. So, I want to make sure everybody gets to say what they would like to say because I am going to go soon, only because I'm sleepy, but I love you guys to death. Mr. Sunday at the bottom has an open mutual aid request. If you guys could please go on his account and like repost it, share it, donate if you can, I would appreciate it. Aziz also is in need of mutual aid. He is in Syria. If you have coins for him, please do that. And then Sean, is there anything you'd like to say? I don't know.
How long you gonna? When are you gonna wrap it up?
I'll wrap it up when the conversation's done. So I just want to make sure you can hop in if you need to.
Yeah, they can finish their dialogue. I still want to know about the ramifications of imperialism and how that had nothing to do with the economic growth, rather than like opening up private property. Apparently,
wait, did I claim that?
Okay, so also, if you would like to come back to these debates, please follow me. I will be live tomorrow and I will have much more energy. Go ahead, Ome.
Yeah, so I mean, my bigger point here is that the United States is actually, in some ways, to credit for the fall of the Japanese economy.
True.
And it has very little to do with property rights in general. And I would say that any economist worth anything coming out of Japan would make the same argument. And that one singular study that discusses a very short period of time in which there was an short-term economic benefit in one capacity regarding land ownership rights is not even within the context of the Marxist Leninist point of view that we're trying to discuss here today. It's a kind of an irrelevant argument because we're not defining private property rights in the same capacity. So it's just like not an academic or a good faith argument, in my opinion. And if I'm to
Not
take you
academic enough.
at your face value, I would say that, like, yeah, I would say that in general, the world is better off because of the economic development and the infrastructural development as a result of both capitalism and socialism, wherever it has been institutionalized. But that is because of the mere nature of the development of humankind, not because one political and economic structure has, done a good job. That, and I would add that the biggest problems in Japan currently are the very protectionist stances that the prime minister currently takes about the Japanese political economy, and specifically the
but I was
xenophobia
just
they have
told
against
that
China, which
Japan
is
opening
one
up
of
to the world
their
had no
most
impact on its growth.
comprehensive and most important trading partners that they have undermined over the course of the last few years. My best friend likes to say, she's Japanese and Chinese, that Japanese people like to put a kiss on the technology that comes out of China and claim that it's their own, and that's how they sell it. So, I mean, I just like, completely reject this idea of like private property, something, this specific study of the islands being a like comprehensive examination of the entirety of the political position of Japan in the context of private property that we're discussing.
Okay, I just want to clear a few things up. Do we agree that I never claimed that what initialized the economic growth of Japan, or what it was solely responsible for it, or anything, was the property rights of the type that I mentioned? That was not a claim I made, right?
No, it is the claim that you made. It's the inference
Okay.
that you would make off the things that you said.
No, so
But
the
if you
claim
wanna
I remember
backtrack from it,
making,
that's cool.
the claim I remember
Yeah, if you want
making,
to backtrack from it, that's cool.
okay, so
I
I'm
don't
going to
necessarily
give
care about none of that.
my recollection, which is that the claim I made was that, in a more general sense, we have reasons for believing that private ownership and property rights do create the type like economic growth, and that it is good for people. And one piece of evidence for that was this paper that analyzes some islands in Japan
but you
where
have
we
a
have plausibly.
fundamental
Can I finish my sentence, please? Where there's plausibly
Because-
random
no, because
variation
you're
between
not
islands that
addressing-
got
you're
property
not
rights and islands that
clarifying.
didn't get property rights, and that gave us a good natural experiment. Sean's response to that was imperialism was responsible for growth in Japan, which one is just like not actually that responsive to the point, right? I'm just pointing to the fact that Japan gave us a good natural experiment to look at. And then two, Sean asked my opinion what caused economic growth in Japan, what constituted it. And I did not say merely property
I just
rights. I
wanna
said a
be clear
variety of
that you're
things.
You're debating a completely different definition of property than the socialist definition.
Oh my
which,
God.
yeah, if you're arguing within the terms that you set, if you're setting the goalpost and arguing within that fallacious sort of circle, then yeah, your logic holds because you're arguing within a fallacy of an argument that communists would never make. Our definition of private property is in the context of the ownership of the means of production. You are coloring outside of those lines, which makes your argument a moot fucking point.
Okay, yes. This is deeply flawed. Go ahead, Sean.
This is deeply
Yeah.
flawed.
Going back to what you said, the inference that you make when you say things like the economic growth of Japan happened better in these areas when they instituted private ownership of the means of production or private property. And is the inference that you make is either the inference is that they did not have private property in these other areas and they got rid of the private ownership of the means of production, or that the economic growth of Japan in these times were on the basis, especially in these areas, were on the basis of the institution of private property. If that's not what you're saying, then it has nothing to do with your argument. It doesn't even help your argument. So I don't even know why the fuck we'd be talking about it. So are you saying that you said something that doesn't help your argument?
No, what I'm saying is close, kind of, to the second one he said. I'm saying the fact that Japan gave its property rights regime, like it instituted its property right regimes on in some islands, but didn't in some comparable islands, means that we have plausibly exogenous, plausibly random variation in which islands received a given treatment, the property rights versus islands that didn't, and that gives us an ability to estimate a counterfactual and estimate the effects of property rights.
Is economic growth a vacuum?
I don't know what you mean by a vacuum, but irrespective of that, can we just get agreement on the fact that my claim was not about what broadly constituted growth in Japan? My claim was about...
No,
this is super easy. Is economic growth a vacuum? This is...
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by vacuum and have to define it, but what I just want to get agreement about the claim I made was not broadly what constituted growth in Japan.
I've already made the claim. I've already made what I said about your claim. The inference is that you said that the economic growth was based on these areas that allow for private property. It's not going to change just because you want it to change. Like, that's the inference.
Okay.
So is economic growth a vacuum? I know you know what vacuum means. There's no way you're having this like argument about global economics without knowing what a vacuum is when it comes to growth of economics.
Right. And just not to be annoying, but I just want to point out for like the bajillionth
Should I know what vacuum
time,
means here, guys?
this study that he's referencing is just not comparable. This is not an argument against communism. He is very slippery by trying to like provide this study.
Not to
Um,
mention the fact that like the property
I just want
definition
to.
just doesn't fit within the socialist point of view. And I want to
Oh my
add to
God,
Sean's
I
point
cleared that
here.
up.
I
That
want
was
to
like
be
the
very
first
clear
thing.
that he's referring to this as a natural experiment, but I don't have any substantial proof anywhere that Japan has had public means of production outside of
haven't.
feudalism.
They
So, like, there's
haven't.
just no economic proof that there actually was a comparable set of islands that are essentially socialist in their means of production ownership. Like that is, there's never been socialism in
Wait, I'm not
Japan.
claiming. I'm
So
not
there's
claiming
just
that
like
they were
no
socialists.
comparable.
Hang on. I want him to answer, Sean.
What a vacuum is?
Yes.
Is economic growth a vacuum? Can we look at economic growth in a vacuum?
I, I, even that that clears
The
it up a
avoidance of
little
the
bit,
question.
but I'm still a bit
The
confused
avoidance
what
of
you
the
mean.
question. Yeah, the
I feel
avoidance
like
of
you're
the
taking it
question.
in bad faith.
Yeah, the
I
avoidance of
don't.
the
I
question.
don't.
tells me everything that I need to
I
know.
like. I'm just being honest.
It's cool.
I quite
It's
frankly
A-okay.
don't
It's
understand
all
what
right.
you're asking. Can you look at
Hey,
economic
Sean
growth in a
is
vacuum?
asking,
I'm not
economic
sure.
It's okay.
growth
It's all right.
happens in a
Hang on.
vacuum.
It's all right.
Everybody
It's all
wait.
right.
Everybody wait, please. All right.
I appreciate it,
Sean,
Diet Pepsi.
please go ahead. I want you to do a back and forth with him real quick.
Yeah, it's completely all right. The avoidance of the question means everything that I need to know. So it shows me that like you know that economic growth doesn't happen in a vacuum, and you know once again, that when it comes to this like experiment that you said that Japan did, this natural experiment apparently that Japan did of instituting private property, you haven't taken into consideration the imperialism of Korea or China and how that affected the economic growth of Japan as a whole and these places. So I don't understand why we would even take this seriously. This
Okay.
just sounds like a joke.
When I say natural experiment, I mean like observations that we can do
I know
that
what you
is
mean by
equivalent
natural
to
experiment.
that
was
approximates
joke.
what
Don't talk about that for 5 minutes. I
because
want
I'm
you
going to
address
explain
what it
to
was
you
that
how
was
it
said.
does account for these other things you're talking about. Because the whole point of it,
Do that part. Do that part.
Right.
I know what
Okay.
a natural experiment is.
it doesn't sound like you do. Because when you have like
Get
random
to the
variation
point. No,
between
stop.
I'm
Get
so
to the
bro.
point.
Of the
Okay,
two
when
of
you
us,
have
the only
random
one of us
variation,
who knows what a vacuum is me. So there's nothing you can explain to me. Let's just do the thing where it accounts for that.
okay, so when you have random variation between two places that were under the same types of like other or had similar factors in terms of demographics, similar geography, were under the same general government, but some had property rights and some didn't have property rights, that gives you the ability to estimate the counterfactual fairly well, considering you have all these similarities and they only differ in one main respect, which is the
So
property
blunder.
rights.
This is a
Yeah.
blunder.
That's a
When
blunder.
we're
Okay.
talking about because when we're talking about the economic growth of a country, like already we know that Silicon Valley is going to do
I know
better
this is
than I don't know Kansas City, Missouri,
this is what I'm
because
talking about.
Silicon Valley has
But
a
they were
lot
just
of
like
money
land
that
ownership
goes in and
is still
out of
allowed
it.
under communism.
The
I'm like,
economic
okay,
growth
buddy,
of the
that's-
United States as a whole still is supplied by imperialism, heavy imperialism. Like this doesn't tell us anything about the growth. Like the growth of Silicon Valley doesn't have anything to do with Silicon Valley by itself. It has to do with the imperialism of the United States. So saying that they were underneath the same system when we
True.
saw growth in one, but we didn't see growth in the other, doesn't tell us the material conditions of the area. The only thing that it tells us about the material conditions of the area is that apparently one of them had private property and the other one didn't, which isn't necessarily, that's actually not true. But like, even if we took that as true, it doesn't tell us any of the reasons as to why the economic growth would happen in these areas. It doesn't tell us the population of these areas. It doesn't tell us like how money moved through these areas. It just says
They don't
private
know about
property was allowed
agglomeration
in one of
effects.
these areas and it wasn't allowed in the other one of these areas. And since we saw growth in this area, then that means that private property did the XYZ. That's just a blunder.
Yeah, so I think you might be understanding my argument to be, again, broader than it actually is. So I'm making a fairly narrow claim at this point, which is just that like this study has plausibly random variation in islands that are probably similarly affected by the factors you're talking about, the broader imperialism or whatever. But islands which had a system of property rights that Japan imposed performed better economically than the islands that didn't have a system of property rights, which is, and considering they're both affected by imperialism, probably roughly to the same degree, there's reason for believing that the variation there is caused due to property rights. And I'm not making a claim about how much overall it contributed.
Which one of these isn't I'll ask this. Which one has the most economic growth in the United States? Silicon Valley or Muncie, Indiana?
Probably Silicon Valley.
Okay, excellent. Why?
I think due to the fact that like there's just increasing gains to scale when it comes to population, and like cities, therefore there's just agglomeration effects when it comes to them. So
he needs to concede.
The other thing that
is that like a satisfactory answer to you, that there are increasing returns to scale from population in cities, and there's clustering effects and like agglomeration effects?
Silicon Valley is an economic zone. It's an economic zone based upon banking, and has like the most amount of investments within it, within the banking systems of the United States. That's why people who live in these areas are able to live with better means than like people in Muncie, Indiana, because it's not built that particular way.
Right, like he's just telling us about like a wealth gap within a capitalist country.
Yeah, there's been no socialist policy where there's been public ownership of the means of production, and this is really the key point of contention.
First of all, I don't want to fit this point. Okay, I don't want to fit on his point. So I think. So first of all,
I was muted for plenty time, so it's my turn. So I'd like to add also, as a direct response to that, is that there actually have been towns that have institutionalized public ownership of the means of production. One such example is Marianelada, Spain, where they have a communist town that is led by a communist mayor who is constantly facing repression from some of the capitalist political entities within Spain. And that town actually is booming
that growth isn't due to Spain's imperialism.
We actually have a real world example of a communist entity within a capitalist one. Not to mention the fact that we have years of historical fact and historical evidence of the Soviet Union doing better, of communist China doing better, of like all of these different political entities that actually do demonstrate, in the wider sense of the word, in a more accurate sense of the word, public ownership of the means of production, or a dictatorship of the proletariat being successful. So this one sort of very small arbitrary study on private property
on like one communist mayor
Japan is just like not enough. I'm sorry.
Great. Okay, I want to address that, but first of all, this just like
I think we're done, actually, if I'm being honest, unless you'd like to say something, but I think I am gonna skedaddle, and I will be back tomorrow. But please follow Sean, because she is also a live host, and she's amazing and wonderful and beautiful. And also follow Josefina. She makes amazing fucking content. She is also wonderful and beautiful. And then Mr. Sunday down at the bottom, he needs his mutual aid to be boosted. If you could please do that. I would really appreciate it so much. And we are gonna go raid Swan. Her username is on the background. It is Cave Demon Slayer.
I gotta find Cave Demon Slayer. I just want to be. I don't know why this triggers me so much, but like, why is Silicon Valley wealthier than other places or whatever? Oh, I think it's because of like agglomeration effects or whatever. And then she appealed to like, no, because it's like a banking sector that it's dedicated to banking and finance and all this cool stuff. That only explains the only way you get to more per capita wealth, though, because of that, is if there are agglomeration effects and increasing returns to scale, because otherwise the smaller city, whatever Indiana city she said or whatever the fuck, would just have an equivalent amount of that stuff per capita. It only I don't know why that triggers me, but like if there were just like constant returns to scale, Muncie, Indiana would have like per capita the same amount of patents, the same amount of innovation as Silicon Valley, but it doesn't because they're increasing returns to scale. So it's just, I don't know why that it triggers me so much, just because I just like, oh my God. Not on live and X to Elon platform. Welcome, Bones. Sorry, jeez. I don't know why that triggers me so much, but
It's just like, if we're gonna make the argument that like this small scale so-called natural experiment is like a legitimate experiment in any capacity, then we'd have to have like socialist entities in the region. It's just like there was just nothing there.
What do you mean? I mean, there's no reason I should be getting pissed because they're like dumb, but like it was just such like a clear, at least in my view, like line of reasoning. I said I think we have reason for believing like why property rights can like do these good things or whatever. And I like one of them being this study, but I'm not appealing to this study to like give a comparison. It wouldn't make sense. Think of how like more unfair it would be for me to say the reason why I think property rights are good is because when I compare a capitalist and socialist country, they like you know, they have these like different economic outcomes. Think about what they would say then. Oh, these are all like affected by like a bunch of like co-founders, right? Like the countries that choose capitalism versus the countries that choose socialism. It's just not like random. They're going to differ in meaningful respects. And it's just like not easy to get a counterfactual there. They're affected by like all the CIA funding and stuff too. I'm sure they would say they're affected by their inability or ability to do imperialism effectively, right? So like think about how much more of a fair comparison it is that I'm not doing that, and I'm instead appealing to just like certain islands that Japan had like colonized had instituted a property rights regime, as opposed to ones that were similar in many respects but didn't, right? Like this is a much more fair comparison because they're going to be affected by common factors like imperialism to roughly the same degree. For what it's worth, I think it doesn't really get you to arguing against Marxism per se meaningfully, because I think you can really only do socialism when you have like technology at a certain baseline. But that's not the argument they made. Yeah. Kill me. What is this? I'm becoming that's full of shit. I read some of these, but I'm becoming less left-wing. I found a series interesting double effects. It seemed to me unlikely to influence a presumptive audience because most people on the left have no desire to become less left-wing. Indeed, they usually feel morally obligated to maintain their current political convictions and are vaguely apprehensive about aging, precisely because they can see the effect that greater life experience has had on others. Thus, the article struck me as being more likely to elicit condescending approval from the right than greater maturity of conviction on the left. They're too stupid to actually understand the theories they claim to support. Yeah, not everyone can be an internet autist that reads Marx all day. Okay. They're too busy being a white slave. Personally, I would loathe to characterize the evolution of my own political views as becoming less left-wing. What stands out to me when I look back over the trajectory of my convictions that I used to be full of shit, utterly and completely full of shit. And that over time, I became somewhat less so. Focusing on the development seems to me presents an opportunity to craft a more unifying narrative, since I would hope that everyone, regardless of their background and political conviction, should aspire to be less full of shit. Of course, to the extent that the left is full of shit, becoming less full of shit has resulted in me uncovering more points of disagreement with the left. But who's at fault in that? Wow.
And I hope and pray that
Okay, let's see.
Did not is not Mimi is not the one to talk, by the way.
Listen,
Listen,
This is the live. This is the live they rated, guys.
Open the
that
DM.
white man
Interesting
who
stuff
was
here.
dry humping the kitchen counter.
Intellectual stuff there. Okay. kill me. Scrap vessels. Doesn't like Bangladesh do a lot of it? Nope, apparently not. Fuck, what the hell? $0. Never mind. God damn, I'm thinking, aren't there like scrap yards in Bangladesh? China. Save me, 3 like save me. Please. Whatever else needed, the wonks most they vanished, unfortunately, sadly. Why won't SDL do TikTok debates? I'm guessing India, even though probably gonna be bank. Yeah, fuck. Scrap vessels. I don't know what scrap vessels mean. Okay, the fucking US. Thailand. Damn. Japan. But I could have guessed Thailand and Japan probably. Would not have guessed the other ones. We don't get enough on every time a country cries communism, CAA, MK Ultra, Elon Musk, Mickey Mouse. It's never their fault. Obviously. But it's so even it pisses me off because I mean, just like I was saying, like those excuses don't even like they would just use that excuse if I tried to present evidence that had a counterfactual socialist country in that, right? Because they would just say there's like a they would say in really dumb terms basically that there's just like some type of endogeneity or like selection problem there, or like reverse causality problem even. Like maybe the poor countries are just the ones that choose communism. Oh, it could be I don't know how to pronounce it actually, but I bet it is 500 million, so it's probably some African country that's fairly small. You're not fun. You block whispers from other people in here. Send me one real quick. Oh, I do. Oh, I don't know how to whisper on Twitch even. Oh, yes, I do. I just hit the whisper button. I figured it out. I'm going to read whatever you say out loud. Immediately. The moment you send it. Probably not the best idea to share this with chat. Fine. I feel like Kenya would have other stuff. Yeah, damn, fuck. Eritrea? Yeah, hell yeah. I guess I won't share it with chat. If I wasn't just like immediately kicked from their live, I would have like invited them to talk to me online or something. But you know, they kicked me. They removed me. Didn't realize Eritrea has gold mines. Yeah, I know them. I know they have mineral stuff. Funny thing about African gold mines is that they are really bad at reporting their correct trade data to Comtrade, and then the leftists do the memes where they try to calculate illicit financial flows, and they actually include a bunch of just administrative errors in data. Inshallah, Eritrea's dictator will shuffle off his mortal coil soon. Damn. Whatever happened to Coney 2012, guys? Whatever happened to him? He's still kicking, right? Okay, we're not reading this whole thing or whatever. I just want to, sometimes I just feel like I'm crazy. But I know I'm not crazy, but I just can't be crazy. What's up, Mio? Paper contributes by clarifying the pathways between property-defining institutions and growth by incorporating work on neglected continent Asia. We divide property rights into two categories: institutions that define property rights, such as land survey systems and a land registration system, and those that protect property rights, such as land expropriation laws or constitutional safeguards against property takings. We assess the economic legacy of institutional change imposed by Japan on its Asian colonies, which were acquired through an opportunistic process of territorial expansion. We argue that the decision to colonize were exogenous to late 20th century growth, a point substantiated by results from the quasi experiment in Micronesia. We return to the issue of exogeneity later in the paper. Prior to colonization, these countries had complex systems of land tenure that impeded transactions, including multiple ownership, clan or lineage ownership, poorly defined boundaries, and lack of official titles. In an effort to generate tax revenue, Japanese colonial administrators abolished these systems in favor of single ownership, official titles, updated land registration, and boundaries established by clear survey maps. It's a new system made plain who is responsible to pay taxes. Our inquiry is inspired by rates of economic growth that were vastly different across Asia, where Japan was the only Asian country to successfully begin industrialization in the late 19th century. Asian tigers, South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore successfully industrialized in the second half of the 20th century. Well, I wonder what their explanation for Singapore is, by the way. I know Singapore has like a lot of state ownership, but I wonder... Singapore can't be due to imperialism, can it? Also, sorry, I don't know why this reminded me of it again, but her saying... Japan, people's lives in Japan are bad. It's like living standards in Japan, okay, are not... are much lower than they should be. But like, why are we just citing the exchange rate? Like, that's just not going to be that meaningful. And probably a lot of that is just due to Japan's monetary policy, because they keep doing the quantitative easing and shit. Which actually I think that on its own might be ambiguous on exchange rates. I don't remember. Where's my Scott Sumner? I have to check. We love zombie banks, don't we, folks? Absolutely. The ratio of per capita GDP between the most developed country and the least developed country in Asia is over 25 to 1. We asked to what extent might contrasting systems of property rights account for differential growth. The case of Palau, an island country in Micronesia, provides a quasi-experimental setting, which shows that secure property-defining institutions provided a foundation for economic development. Japan controlled Micronesia from 1914 to 1945, and Palau surveyed and registered private ownership from 1939 to 1941, classifying land into 4 categories: public, clan, lineage, and individual. In 1941, Japan again began to survey other Micronesian countries, but the process was interrupted by World War II. After the war, the U.S. controlled Micronesia, and in Palau, American judges upheld land titles originating from the Japanese land registers. The American judges consistently concluded that claims or lineage did not have any authority over private land. In other Micronesian countries, the American judges backed legal proof of private ownership, and following the tradition of common law, upheld customary ownership rights that allowed a village or clan leaders to confiscate or deny land use rights if a resident neglected customary obligations in the village. This is NIMBYism gone too far. As a result, foreigners, or YIMBYism gone too far. Well, it could be either, I guess, depending on what the customary obligations are. I was thinking like HOA, like, you know, zoning requirements. Okay, the customary obligation is setback requirements. You gotta build your suburban home certain distance away from the road. Can't have a business attached to it. Regardless, okay. As a result, foreigners only invested in private lands that were protected in an absolute way, as in Palau. In 2007, Palau was 3 times richer than other Micronesian countries. Gotta mow your lawn, yeah. Can't have no trees. The Asian experience suggested that Japanese land surveys was initially motivated by public finance. Land has 2 special characteristics which distinguish it from other assets. It is immovable and everlasting. Generally, it is easier for government to tax land as opposed to tax other assets that could be readily hidden. Effective land taxation, however, requires registers and maps to identify parcels, as well as systems linking taxpayers to the registers. Thank God we had a citation for that one. In many countries, land taxes are evaded because the government cannot link registers and maps and taxpayers. The Japanese land survey and registration system secured land taxation and thus promoted public finance. I just feel like I'm crazy. And I never, like, why do they gaslight me so much, bro? The fact that they, even though I tried to clear it up like 2 times, I think, conflated my claim with what caused growth in Japan overall is crazy. And the fact that it doesn't even make sense, because like that Jean girl like asked me to list what I thought caused growth in Japan, and I appealed to I think I said like global trade. I think I might have said property rights, and I said there might even have been some like import substitution industrialization regime that might have some credit as well, right? So, but then I never even got to defend Japan porn, because that Sean girl left when I found the study, because there are I read it from, or I got them from a Nicholas Decker post a while back, where there are estimates of like the sort of like direct gains to trade that Japan experienced due to its opening up with the world, and there are also estimates of the like indirect benefits. Just thanks for the follow. I can't read it, it's too small. You gotta make it bigger. Ah, damn, it's gone. Fuck. I appreciate it. Senior Keem. There it is. I appreciate it, brother. Oh no, Toy Groiper is here. But just due to the fact that like they had to learn how to like translate stuff. And there's just a lot of like technical knowledge that they received from doing that. These people try to put numbers on the effects of trade. Key to their method is relative price under autarky, are sufficient to learn the trade-offs between goods that govern comparative advantage. Japan was a rare example of a country which was truly autocratic, thus allowing them to precisely answer the welfare effects of trade using relative prices and trade flows. Since we know what comparative advantage are, it's trivial to just calculate how much welfare increased by. They estimate that opening Japan to trade increased welfare by 8%. Trade did not lead to Japan booming, but it was openness to the world that did. These people in 2024 show that economic growth couldn't take off until technical knowledge had been written in the vernacular language. Prior to the creation of the first Japanese English dictionary, you couldn't really learn anything about modern technology. In fact, not only were the books not translated, but many of the concepts lacked words entirely and had to be created. There was an unmistakably trend break. Unmistakable. Oh my god, I can't speak. Trend break with the publication of the first dictionary. And that is in logs. By 1887, Japan had received the level of technical knowledge which Germany had in 1870. It was an astonishing change. Oh, look, and this talks about agglomeration effects too. I totally forgot about that. More Slop. Oh, I saw this is like, because I got triggered by Slop. But this is not Slop here. Let's talk about agglomeration effects. Oh, maybe that's why I was so triggered by it. After all, if you could still arrange a valuable meeting, then trade might reduce the opportunity cost of travel, but it shouldn't have a large effect. These people use detailed records of cell phone pings to track where employees of major Silicon Valley firms live and work, and the effect it has on patent filings of their employers. They can trace who works where from their office, from their location during the day. If someone spends their time in Google's offices between the hours of 9 to 5, we might reasonably infer they work there. The data looks something like this. Employees live near where their employers are. So, whether they meet employees of other companies, which they define as being the same place at the same time, is a function of how close their employers are. Of course, companies might be co-locating for reasons other than meeting people, so they instrument by seeing how likely employees of a company in an industry, which has never, not once, cited a patent in the industry that the first employee works in, are to be in the same place at the same time. They show that these face-to-face meetings have an enormous impact on patent citations. The magnitude is such that eliminating a quarter of meetings would reduce patent citations by 8%, which is considerably larger than prior estimates on the effect of being in a different city entirely. Much of this is due specifically to unanticipated serendipitous meetings. which is precisely the sort of thing that foreign trade enables. It's like, kill me. Well, time to let my satisfactory run while I go to bed. Based. I appreciate you stopping by, Dayhammer. I had to turn the RGB on my computer off because with how I have my desk laid out now, my the glass panel on my computer faces like right towards my bed. So if I want to like leave my computer on to download something or leave Palworld on overnight, so my pals get a bunch of fucking sticks and wood and stone from me, I gotta have the RGB off, or otherwise I can't sleep. Jesus. There's another guy on that panel. Maybe I should just reach out to him over Discord that had his own live, and I wanted to talk to him at some point, but he doesn't seem to be streaming, but he's on someone else's live.
Well, then why are these candidates winning?
At a local level in...
At a national level. They're winning at a national level because if they're able to win to get up for Senate seats, then we're actually talking about a national level, or for congressional seats. And we've seen it now at a few times. And if you think that Mom Donnie winning in New York, I mean, that's millions of votes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't. Oh, anyways, Blue, I'm sorry. You came up, friend, and I want to let you have a chance to talk. So.
Okay, let's finish watching this at least.
Sorry, when there's a little bit of crosstalk, it's hard for me to hear, so I don't know about the audience.
And I might reach out to this Rex guy.
But let's just respond quickly on potential good motives and this whole notion of like pulling up on the bootstraps, the millennials.
What's up, Big Jerry?
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I mean, these people, the idea that somebody who had to pay $50 to $200 of rent is going to wag their finger in my face and criticize me about my financial choices or anyone in my generation.
Oh, what's up, Social? 2 times is a trend. Big progressive wins in the future, lol. I know. But it's millions of votes in New York City, okay? Which is also obviously New York City's representative of the broader American populace.
It's absolutely laughable.
On the bootstraps.
Because, boomers definitely didn't have lower income as well.
The millennials, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I mean, these people, the idea that somebody who had to pay $50 to $200 of rent is going to wag their finger in my face and criticize me about my financial choices or anyone in my generation is absolutely laughable. And the idea that these people are raised for war, raised for battle, these are the children of the people that fought. These are the children of the greatest generation. You recognize Vietnam and you reference it, and I absolutely agree with you. Those people are heroes. That is not the vast majority of boomers did not fight in Vietnam. You do understand that, right? But yet they overwhelmingly vote for all these.
And you think the vast majority of Gen Zers, or even close to majority, or even higher as a percentage of the population, go to war now? We have not had a draft since Vietnam, and the wars we have been in, how many troops in total did we deploy to Afghanistan over the entire 20-year period we were there? It was like under. I don't even just mean like at one time, but just like in total, it has to be under. It's definitely under 100,000, right? It's probably lower than that. How many total U.S. troops went to Afghanistan? 800. Oh no, damn, never mind. I guess we were there for 20 years. 800,000 though. At its peak, naval stabilization mission comprised 130,000 troops from 50 countries. Okay, where it's just... Does this one have just the U.S. numbers? For every Gen Zer I know calls the internet on their phone Wi-Fi, lol. I mean, I mean, I'm guilty of that. You gotta make some compromises to communicate with people. This is 5,500 for the initial deployment, I think.
Wars they don't have to fight in, like Iraq, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Iran. That's what they do. They're war hawks because they were raised.
You know, there's like people, there's like some like African countries that because they only get their internet from like Facebook, they just like think the whole internet is Facebook. They just think like Facebook is basically the whole internet. They'll just like refer to the internet as Facebook.
The stolen valor of what their
at least that is what I have heard
in World War II. So this whole spirit of like the
from my sources, anonymous sources.
These are the people that went to Woodstock, and the $5 bill they had in their pocket was worth like $200. It's like the idea of the noble boomer. These are the people that couldn't care.
If only there were like good measures of like inflation adjusted income that we could like collect, like by generation. Why does this table not have Gen Z? But I like that study too because it has tables. One of the tables I think does have Gen Z. But also just shows how like sensitive the analysis is to just like using different inflation indexes. And that's what all these debates are. They don't know it, but they're really just debating whether or not to use CPI or PCE as a deflator.
Care less into the first generation to leave us behind, millennials, Gen X, Gen Z, with a worse world than what they were given. That's what this all comes down to. They screwed
by what measure?
The country over. Has America gotten better or worse in the past 30 years that they've been dominant voting bloc?
Well, look at the previous.
By what measure? In terms of like median income, I think we're better. In terms of economic performance overall, I think we're better. In terms of like the social stuff is a little bit hard to measure, but I think even over the last 30 years, like divorce rates have not like skyrocketed over the last 40 years. You might have differing views on how good these are, but we've gotten like gay marriage, we've gotten a meaningful degree of like trans acceptance, and trans rights are protected in some states, at least.
30 years. Like you can always say it's constantly getting better or worse. And this is why I talk about the cycles, right? So when you talk about the generational
does Fred have a divorce rates? I don't think it does. Damn. But where can I go that's not Fred? that is not just like Slop. I don't trust anything that's not Fred.
For turnings, there's a reason for this, because the different generations, when you look at a 4-generation cycle, there's the artist, the heroes, the prophet, the nomads.
Here's Census Bureau. This is over the last like 20 years. And it seems to be trending slightly downwards.
And so it's propaganda and like set up a lot of the globalist elite to propagandists to have two different sides of the opposing other. So yeah, a lot of people went to Vietnam, a lot of people went to college, and a lot of people went to Woodstock on purpose. The CIA is behind all of it. And just like every other generation.
True. The CIA was behind Woodstock.
When I was entering my high school years, we were propaganda to either go to prison or to have a drug addiction and to say fuck the man, right? Excuse me, I'm there. And so every generation we have these blessings and these crises that happen within our lifespan. And the reason I bring up astrology is because it's always based off Uranus. That Uranus is an 84-year.
Guys, you might think it's all the CIA, but you know, Mercury was in retrograde. Okay, they did MK Ultra, but it's fine. All right, Uranus was between two other planets. Okay, it was aligned with the Earth.
Orbit, because when it makes transit, we see a
He's so done. Oh my god.
Huge change in society. When Uranus and Jupiter conjected in April 20th, 2024.
Is that the term for like being aligned or whatever?
Change in society. When Uranus and Jupiter conjected in April 20th, 2024, on our podcast, Poppy's Field Project, we talked about this is going to be
gotta plug it.
New technology. This is when the calendar and money currency changes. And here we are 2 years later, bam, here we are. That's why I look at the stars, because the people, the globalists, they pay attention to it because there's real cycles. There's cycles within the generations and there's cycles within the stars. And it's happening right now.
Let's let Rex respond. Rex, your response.
With all due respect, I view that as like drum circle smoking crack. Like I don't view that as true logic. You know,
okay, as we let the jugglers run our world, like, you know what I mean? Like,
don't interrupt him. Just real quick, Rex. So respond fully.
Hold on. Is astrology an established science? Is it provable? Can you prove
it's old as science? Yes, it is. It is, because you know why? All the planets move in a predictable manner, just like generations have a predictable.
They won't tell you about this one, but all the planets move in a predictable
manner, depending on the cycle of the four turnings. This is a long form.
Depending on the cycle of the what?
Generations have a predictable manner, depending on the cycle of the four turnings.
The four turnings. Take that, Isaac Newton.
This is a long form game.
Motherfucker thought it was gravity.
It's ridiculous. Like it's like trying to debate someone that thinks My Little Pony is real.
So why don't you talk a little bit about this notion of whatever generation does it, right? And do you think that there's something particular about the boomer generation that is causing these tendencies?
Yes, well, they were raised in the post.
Bezos got to step in and save it. He's got to bring up something that's not astrology.
World War II era with the best economy ever, where America was the sole manufacturing superpower. She mentions like all these various.
True. The sole manufacturing superpower? I don't actually know even if our share of output as manufacturing output has declined a ton since then. God, what is this paper called that I know has the graph in it? This. It's probably one I could find like on Fred or something, but I like this one because it looks like it was made in like Microsoft Excel and it's 3D and it's cool. This is we're the gray one. So this only goes back to 1970, I guess. But this is our total value added from manufacturer from 1970. I thought this also had the share of our global output, but I could be wrong. You can see China had a big increase, but we're still value added has only gone up. We probably have declined as a share since China, but
factors and things. Let me give you
does Fred have a series on our share global output?
Factor. The entire world was destroyed post-World War II. We were the only people left that could make things large scale. You have this overwhelming wealth in the gold standard, later the petrodollar, everything that the boomers got to enjoy.
True.
We're truly just raised in the post-World War II era with the best economy ever, where America was the sole manufacturing superpower. She mentions like all these various factors and things. Let me give you a factor. The entire world was destroyed post-World War II. We were the only people left that could make things large scale. You have this overwhelming wealth in the gold standard, later the petrodollar, everything that the boomers got to enjoy. We're truly.
Wait, what does the petrodollar mean that we don't still have? Don't we still? I hate the petrodollar stuff. All strikes me as basically like meme stuff too. But like, my understanding is that when people say petrodollar, they're just referring to the fact that trade in oil is all done in US dollars, and therefore we have like some privilege with regards to like we could buy oil with seniorage if we want to. We don't actually in effect even buy oil with like seniorage money, but you know, that's usually what I think petrodollar refers to, and as far as I know, that's still largely the case. What's up, ADD? Welcome back. Three distinct meanings often confused. One, dollar paid to oil-producing nations, a term invented in the 1970s, meaning trade surpluses of oil-producing nations. He's probably not referring to that, as far as I know. It's still going on. Currencies of oil-producing nations, which tend to rise in value against other currencies when the price of oil rises and fall when it falls. Probably not referring to that. Pricing of U.S. oil in dollars. Currency used as a unit of account to trade. Unit of account to price oil in the international market. He's probably referring to this. Which is, to my understanding, still like largely the case. I think like there's been some interest in establishing some China's currency, or they had an idea for like a basket of currencies. Okay, this is stupid. I'm glad Peace Girl found time between fighting the Trump administration to moderate a debate between a schizo and a bald dude. Me too. I mean, it's with the word, I hate word war debate. What a stupid fucking name. I always get it wrong. So I think he probably just felt it would be nice of him to do, considering he went to the last one. And I don't know if he knew what he was getting into. In 2018, China opened a futures market denominated in yuan, I think that's how I pronounce it, I always forget, which could encourage the use of its currency as a petrodollar. And apparently Venezuela did something with cryptocurrency. Incredible. Oh, and it already shut down. Incredible. A lot of this Twitch site dude is majority leftist, probably not news, but I'm so, or something. LOL Twitch. I mean, yeah, there aren't many like formal Twitch politics streamer left anymore, but you know, a lot of it's moved to YouTube and TikTok and stuff, but most of the Twitch politics category is probably leftist people. I'm trying to think who counts as a Twitch pol person who's conservative.
Really was like being a Roman citizen. So you have this generation that grows up in this lap of luxury, and they are the most spoiled people on earth. That's just the truth. And they want us to go fight and die for them. They want us to pay into systems like the Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid that we're never going to get. You brushed that off earlier. You didn't respond to it. There is no argument you can.
Well, I mean, Asmongold, I guess. I wasn't thinking about that just because Twitch Paul I associate with like the older community or whatever that I was not particularly around for. Okay, I made it onto Hippy Dippy though, so I count. I think I count.
Can make for me paying into a system that I'm never going to receive. Uranus doesn't matter. Okay.
And I told you, yeah, you're not going to probably receive it, but that system won't exist when you need it.
I think he's agreeing with that.
It'll like it will as.
That's his point.
We're moving through society and its transits, it constantly changes. Thus, those systems just won't be there when you become an elder. Where the boomers are elders now. So whatever system you're working with, and I have a question for you: are you not living in luxury right now?
I am a manufacturer and an employer. I've been working in business for years. What'd you say, ma'am?
Are we not living in luxury right now?
No, things are going down the tubes. As a businessman, I just lost my warehouse because I can't deal with the diesel surcharges on fulfillment in a war.
True, Amazon, or sorry, Aspen, but I feel that dude, it's just trend setting as he rides with the tide. Yeah. Like, he was not really an old Twitch Paul. I think he was on some of the Scuffed podcast stuff or whatever. Is that what it was called? That I think Trainwrecks did? But he didn't really start doing it until like after Trump was elected or whatever.
War that the boomers voted to start.
Hold on, I don't think there's anything on Fred for the global share of output that the U.S. has for manufacturing. I don't want to. I'm so polarized against the like first result on Google for for a lot of this stuff, because usually it's just like some Statista or whatever the fuck that website is, and it's just like some bullshit. I wonder if the OECD has one.
So in the 60s, everybody was living in luxury, huh?
It was a lot better now. The dollar was worth more. That's
So
It's not even like like reasoning from a price change. It's reasoning from a but not real value. Well, kind of real value, but real value change sounds weird, because it is true, like in a real sense the dollar to value was obviously worth more in the past because how inflation works, but obviously the amount of money people make has gone up as well. Touted almost anti-left at the moment worldwide. I mean, I think it's very hard to like assess those things, but reasoning from a vibe change, I like this. I'm stealing it. That's true. Wow, this is only the last 10 years. And also, I don't think that's what I want.
So we were just like,
so no, you're denying the buying power that you're an old person. I'm sorry, you are, that your generation, older generation has had. We don't have that buying power.
I'm sorry, what generation am I?
I don't know how.
Oh no, brother. Oh no. Oh no. She doesn't look that old. She looks like she could be under 40 for sure, right? Like,
you, man?
I'm right in between. I'm a zennial.
You gotta give a number. I'm 23.
So no wonder you're mad. See, you are in a totally different gap. Of course.
Doesn't want to answer. By the way, I just looking through the OECD stuff reminded me of this. I didn't know about this until recently. But I didn't know that apparently part of the reason our trade deficit is so large is just because of how multinationals try to shelter income in other countries in the US. So maybe me and GPT 5.6 Soul could recreate this one day. I bet it'd be possible. At least if they have like a replication package. Yeah, duh. I just didn't know. I don't know. I didn't know about that. Or at least didn't know the effect was that large.
You're going to hate what the older generation is doing because you think that they should have built and left you a luxurious planet for you to be the next baby boomer. You're so envious of their childhood. You have no idea what their childhood was like compared to yours. You have this idea that
Low-key little true though.
has been programmed into your generation's mind that that life was so much more glorious. It was the golden age. And that's what every generation is propaganda. We're all sold that, history was almost so much more better. Hey, I was in high school in the 90s. Do you know how many people are trying to relive the 90s right now? Hilarious.
Yeah, so Rex, quick response on that, and then we're going to be out of our time.
And there's even like a self-reported bias make it seem like people are like self-reporting their bias or whatever. But like from my understanding, it's pretty well documented that like people themselves will rate the many like cultural things being better from just the time that like that when they were a kid or teenager. Like it's pretty consistent that people think like the best music came out when they were a kid and teenager, the best movies, the best books, the whole came out like at the age of 15, like across generations. So there's some bias even there from when the boomers are telling the youngins about how great things were. If I remember correctly, tomorrow is the first day Claude is banned at work and everyone has to use ChatGPT. Oh, damn. Never. Never.
Of Afghanistan.
Okay, listen. War fronts, okay, is like, it's like not that far from Slop, okay? Okay. All right.
Something is brewing.
Not that far from Slop.
Appeared into Afghanistan without a trace.
Incredible presentations. I'm kidding you. Ellsworth, I kind of agree, but I'm giving it to you. Yeah, it's just stuff that, bro, how did he,
Crimes and abuses.
how did he do this even?
Over the following days, the group has kept up the pressure, most notably in a drone.
Incredible. What's up, Ivan? I know. I've like watched, like, I know who Warfronts is, so like, you know, I've watched at least some of their stuff because I watch stuff adjacent to it, like the sort of edutainment slop. I watch Veritasium while I'm playing Marvel's Spider-Man 2. So
you don't
know what the hardship is yet. You're too young to know. You just think that is
unfortunate.
It's lame.
Rex, let's do a response.
I'm a per run kind of guy.
Post-World War
Hashtag who dat.
Like I said, the greatest expansion and creation of wealth in the United States of America that had ever been seen, to the point where you had income tax as high as 91% because people could afford to pay it. Okay.
What is that? What? Hold on. By definition, like, you can afford to pay any marginal tax. What does that mean? You had income taxes of 91%, which, first of all, very few people paid, and the effective rate was much lower than that because people shelter their incomes in S corps. So even the highest estimates of effective rates were like only 45% and not 91%. But regardless of that, the reason being because people could afford to pay it. Like, what does that mean?
That's how much money was coming into the country.
Preston Stewart is where it's at.
You're telling me a 23
he does a lot of
$40 trillion in debt. You're telling me,
well, a lot of what do I call this type of stuff? What do I call this type of stuff? I like Preston Stewart typically. I've watched some of his stuff. He's just he's a machine. Okay, that's what I'll say. And you can tell by the fact that he uploads so much and uses the same face in every thumbnail. Yeah. I get his Instagram reels and stuff sometimes too. I think I follow him on Instagram still, but I got annoyed by how often he would post stories, I remember.
Oh, well, that just happened. No, you're interrupting. All right, you're interrupting again, so you're going to have to stop doing that. So you're telling me, well, just suck it up, Buttercup. You're nostalgic for the old days. Yes, I'm nostalgic for when we weren't in $40 trillion of debt. I miss that time. And you can look distinctly, Bill Clinton in the 90s, he was the first president, the only president in modern history to get the debt down from 4 trillion to 3.2 trillion is the number. What happened after that? Who came in power after that? The past 30 years, specifically the past 18, it has been the boomer population electorate and the boomer population politicians that have voted for the wars, the expansion of the deficit, the $800 billion plus military spending, all of it. That is all the old people. I, graduating class of 2020, am responsible for none of that, but I have to pay into that system.
You've never really experienced like where your own generation has been.
We have to do times up on that first 15 minutes. Really appreciate the energy there. So we're going to take a quick break, all right? A quick break and cut to our sponsors, and then we'll go into a crossfire.
Bro, they have sponsors for this?
Round, all right? So folks, get ready for the crossfire round.
Oh, yeah, right. The gold silver people. Also, incredible Microsoft Edge.
I'll be able to, ask each of the debaters. Let's get this round rolling. In this section, I will be asking some clarifying questions, and we'll be making...
Bro, I gotta get sponsors for my videos. I can get 1,000 views, okay? I get 1,000 views sometimes. I'm probably not willing to accept a sponsorship with a gold, silver, Bitcoin company, though.
Making sure that some semantics are covered and that both sides are understanding each other. And I want to draw from some of the examples used in the first round of the debate. So I want to start with Rex. Rex, as you understand the prompt, is this about moral responsibility? In other words, is how you see this prompt about culpability? You're not just talking about like, causality, that the boomers, literally caused the moment we're in. You're saying that they did so and that they're morally culpable for, correct?
Sure. It's like lighting a bunch of money on fire to keep yourself warm type of thing, right? They did it out of like dispassion and disinterest. They didn't care about continuing on the country and the nature that it had been provided to them through the greatest generation, which is trying to make life better for that next generation. They voted for entitlements. They voted for wars. They voted for reckless spending. That's what they did. It's kind of like manslaughter in a way.
Right. So you're not saying that, like, I guess by the function of them being around and doing things that they're responsible in that sense. You're saying that they did some bad things, some negligent things for which they're culpable, right?
It's like somebody's criminal record, but it's a voting record.
Got it. And now... Yeah, Mariah, so one of the examples used were the kind of quote-unquote entitlement programs and like Social Security and that kind of thing. And I think one of your responses was...
I need a updated version of this chart. Purchasing power of gold index. Because this only goes to 1914, which makes sense because it's a paper talking about the classical gold standard. But I'm curious. I bet you can just make one of Fred if it doesn't have one. But I don't trust if I just Google it that it's not going to be some total slop that comes up.
Something that I think Rex agrees with, and that is a notion that it will at some point fail or it will end. I think you guys actually agreed on that, but I think the point that he was making, I want your response, is that that's like bad, that there's like a breaking of trust between his generation and the younger generations and boomers, and the fact that they won't get it. And I want to give you an opportunity to respond to that. Not that it will happen, but that it's like not fair that it happened.
Well, for me, we all were born into this taxpayer everyday people. And so the Social Security and this Medicare, those systems are dramatically changing. So we got
Chad fidgeting with his anime figurine.
What about, of course, we're probably not all going to see, but I don't think that they are going to exist. And so we're all in that same boat where we're all paying into a system that we may not be able to see the benefits of, right? And
do you think that that's fair? Do you agree with him that it seems like a little bit
it's not, no, it's not fair.
Yeah.
Paying these taxes is piracy, tyranny.
Piracy?
At all, like costs. Absolutely. Paying these taxes is piracy, tyranny at all, like costs. Absolutely.
Tyranny.
But blame the older people who haven't paid into it as well. And yes, they're getting some of the benefits, but they're also getting like off like you wouldn't believe. Now they're probably also paying into future things that they will never see the benefits of. And it's not their generation to blame. Yes, they're holding the places in Senate and in the House and the higher, but that's what older people are supposed to do to the elders. Now the younger generations can step up. So what I'm seeing is, it's definitely not fair, but instead of hanging on to something that won't be there, what I'm trying to say is stop buying into that system and we can start making a new system.
So Rex, how about that?
It's not going to be there, but we can't blame them.
Here's a response I'm kind of channeling, which is there's a demographic collapse happening, and that maybe is responsible for...
I don't know. It's always just a pay-go system is always just like a gift to the first generation that receives benefits, essentially, which was not the boomers. It was the was it the silent generation that first got the benefit? I think it would still be the silent generation that got first collected Social Security benefits. What's the momentum? I know, like, we literally know the first person was like some girl. This girl, when was she born? Oh no, it'd be older than the silent generation. Born on 1874. Yeah, which generation is which generation is that? That's... What generation, if born in 1874? The missionary generation. So it was one big gift to the missionary generation, guys. I think someone here, there's another table. And another way of financing the transition is to throw out, is talking about transitioning away from a pay-go system like Social Security to like a fully funded system. Is to throw Generation B out of the lifeboat by not paying their pensions at all. That is That way, it is true, Generation C and onwards will enjoy a 10% real return, but those gains by subsequent generations are at the expense of the Generation B, on whom the entire cost of the transaction is concentrated. Put another way, the cost of the gift to Generation A is offset by the negative gift to Generation B. The fundamental point is that once the gift to the first generation under a pay-go scheme has been made, there's a cost of future generations cannot escape. As Diamond 1998, quoted by the people, puts it, the creation of individual accounts does not change the history that leaves Social Security with the unfunded liability. There is thus a zero-sum game between the first generation and subsequent generations. The burden of the gift to the first generation can be placed entirely on the transition generation of pensioners, Generation B, by reneging on pay-go promises, or entirely on the generation of workers at the time of transition, Generation C, by financing Generations B pensions out of taxation, or by spreading the burden over succeeding generations by financing the transition through public borrowing. It is possible to alter the time path of the burden, but not as total. Again, the only way out of the impasse is if a move towards funding leads causally to higher rates of growth, an issue which, as discussed in section 1.3, controversy continues. Which I think there are decent reasons for believing that, at least properly structured, it would, but... Did you see Avi talk to Pisco about anti-Semitism? I saw him and North talk to Pisco. So if that's what you're referring to, then I saw some of that, but not all of that. I don't know if they talked after that. What's up, work girl Glock? I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce this, but Orange. Welcome back. There was a stream before as well. No, I didn't see that then.
Or why we're seeing a lot of this stuff across the world. And is it, is that the boomers' fault specifically? So why don't you respond to this notion of like, yeah, it's happening, but like, who can say it's there? That their fault?
Really quick. So she admits it's not fair. That means something was taken, right? And that's the whole point about boomers being.
Pisco is DSA cocksuck. Bro. Listen, I have disagreements with Pisco about some of the DSA stuff, but also just about some of the more progressive stuff in general he supports. Okay, so. Maybe we should just set up another thing. But do you think Hassan Piker is anti? I think he spreads like anti-Semitic ideas. If by anti-Semite you mean like he wakes up with a personal hatred of Jewish people, like probably not. Probably that's not the case. But I think like probably his, to some extent, the beliefs and information he presents are at least like motivated by anti-Semitic factors, but. Do you think he spreads anti-Semitic ideas? At least to some extent, yeah. Like, I think by, like, maybe just more generally, he supports, like, anti-Western ideas. Maybe that's a better way to put it. It's not as, like, harsh. Because I think that explains, like, the motivation for, like, supporting the Houthis or stuff.
Responsible for the modern economy. They've taken.
Wait, just let him respond real quick. Go ahead, Rex.
No, seriously, they've taken the financial ability of young people to save, and they've absorbed that for themselves and their Social Security. They get the pension, they get the payout. They're richer, they own more property. Okay, it's like a parasite.
Got it. What would you say though that like the notion of it's kind of an accident? People are aging.
Jews are not exclusively Western ethnicity. Most Jews are non-Western. Yeah, no, that's what I mean. So that's what I'm saying. Is like that would be like maybe a less harsh, more fair way to put it would just be instead anti-Semitic, like anti-Western, but like maybe that's it. Maybe that's a better understanding of like at least the motivator for the types of things he talks about and the beliefs he has with regards to like Israel Palestine stuff. So maybe that's how I would put it. But like I obviously Sam says a lot of I think kind of crazy shit about Israel and supports a lot of anti-Western actors. So if you want to consider that, like certainly some of the anti-Western beliefs would also be at least implicitly in support of like anti-Semitic actors. But how do you figure he's anti-Semitic? Like based on what gives you that impression? So again, if by anti-Semitic you mean like it has some actual hatred of Jewish people, I don't think that's the case. Okay, like some actual like bias against them. But I think probably some of the beliefs he has and stuff he says, like with regards to the Houthis, like with regards to saying, I mean, it's not going to be like an exact quote, but like certainly he does not like want the state of Israel to exist or whatever. I think like clearly is a one in part going to be motivated or influenced, calling Hamas like a resistance movement, which I think again is going to fall into partly just like an anti-Western understanding of things. But these are ideas commonly associated with anti-Semitic beliefs that he is probably promoting, even if he himself does not have a hatred of Jewish people or bias against Jewish people.
On having as many kids. Do you agree with that, or do you think that there's something more intentional or negligent?
You can look at consumer price index, or not consumer price index. Yeah, like the sentiment, consumer price sentiment. People wanting to buy products is at an
consumer price sentiment
all-time low since they started measuring it. Okay, price index. Yeah, like the sentiment, consumer price sentiment. People wanting to buy products is at an all-time low.
I think he's referring to the fact that like some of the questions they ask in consumer sentiment surveys are things like, would you feel comfortable making a large purchase of like a durable appliance right now? I think that's probably what he's referring to. I think that's unfair on a standard that supporting anti-Semitic actors makes you anti-Semitic. Then I just say, so if the standard is, I don't think merely by supporting like some actions that have bad, like I've listened to Pisco like have these conversations. I agree, like that would kind of make you bite like bullets at like maybe be Netanyahu is anti-Semitic because he does things that actually that hurts like Jewish people or whatever. Here he has at points like, you know, supported anti-Semitic actors. Like that probably can't be the standard for anti-Semitism, for like calling someone anti-Semitic. But then you're going to have to accept that you're a speciesist, as most countries are speciesist. This is true.
Since they started measuring it. Okay, so that makes it basically impossible to do good business or start a new business and have confidence that you're going to be able to like invest or take on debt to succeed or just succeed in general.
Parody reasoning, you're anti-vegan as you support America, and America is anti-vegan. I don't think that like. I think it's probably a little. The ideas of what America is and what anti-veganism are probably a little broader than anti-Semitism. But I understand the point you're making.
Don't want to start a business. Young people have a harder time finding employment because the older people voted to replace them with either foreign migrants or H-1B. So like it's
based. What they should be doing, based.
You're between a rock and a hard place, and like I said, the cost of rent for a boomer. When the boomer says, "Well, they can't pay for anything; they're just going to Starbucks too much," the boomer paid $200 a month rent. We pay $2,000 a month rent. It's not even comparable. It's a different world, like you say, but it's a different world as in it used to be a dream and now it's a nightmare. And you're saying, "Hey, well, we're still asleep, so it's."
Is that Alex Jones' kid? He does work for the InfoWars or whatever, or at least used to. He probably doesn't technically anymore.
Cool. Yes.
Supposed to buy out, but
in the same condition where in the country's gone completely rogue, and it's the old people that are responsible for it.
Mariah, one of the examples that Rex used was this recent election where Thomas Massey, I think it's out of one of Kentucky's districts, was sort of beaten by a Trump-backed candidate. And this Massey, very famously is against the Iran war and very concerned about debt. He's one of like the true.
You got to go on this platform, the World War debate. North made it somehow. Yeah. I could have replied. I didn't because maybe they changed this. My understanding is that number one, it was like you didn't get to pick the topic or like which side you were on, and I'm just like not interested in that. It's just like I don't want to just like do it as like just like a game where it's just some random bullshit I don't care about, and I might not even get the side I agree with. But they might have changed it because these at least seem like beliefs these people both like genuinely have and stuff.
Or at least purportedly true deficit hawks in the Congress, but he's out of the primary. So what's your response to that? I mean, there are some people who are against some of the policies that Rex is citing, or at least trying to fix some of those issues or address them. And they seem to be, targeted at least by some other political class. So what's your response to the Thomas Massey example, if you're aware of it?
Yes, I am. And so people still believe in the vote, which it obviously looks like Rex does, blaming a lot of voters on what's really going on. And throughout my lifetime, I voted several times. I've had to write in people. And so you're casting a vote. So with this last election, man, I was just like.
What do you think of Peace Corps as a moderator? I mean, this conversation is very unhinged. So I'm glad it's. I think he's done as well as he can as handling it. He probably makes sense to have as a moderator. There wouldn't be an opportunity to do it in this debate just because it's some bullshit. But the only thing I'd be worried about which might make sense in some context or whatever, is like you probably don't want the moderator to be full scale like autist. And like you want the moderator in sometimes to probably have some, or like have the ability to like force someone to like answer a question, but you probably don't want them to go full Pisco mode and like try to pressure someone to do any yes or no stuff. How do they pick these topics? I really don't know. Like, is WWT just chat GPT? Chat GPT and can't speak. They probably are, honestly. What does modern day what modern day debate does? What with regards to the moderation?
June 3rd, right? You're seeing less and less people turn out to vote, especially the younger generations are not showing up. And so this is a game that you vote. I was just like June 3rd, right? You're seeing less and less. I've had to write in people. And so you're casting a vote. So with this last election, man, that was just like June 3rd, right?
I'm pretty sure youth voter turnout was actually fairly high in 2024. Maybe I'm wrong. That's by state, or it's by age. Sex and age. 2008. Oh my god, it's gonna be a graph. Did you watch the UFC fight yesterday? Nope. I don't even know who fought. It says 47% in total. Okay, but I don't know what it was for 2020. It might be down since 2020 just because mail-in voting made it pretty easy to vote, but God, don't make me use Satistar or whatever. Oh, graph. This only goes to 2020, but it's 54% then, which is only a little bit higher than it was in 2008, which is equal to what it was in 1992. So, unless it was pretty low in 2024, which this is. It's not a graph of it, but 42% in 2024, much higher, 50% in aggregate in key battleground states. At the moment, it appears it was lower than historic 2020 election, which was 52 to 55%, and on par with 2016. I'm assuming these different age brackets are different. It's 18 to 29. They might just have different sources for the data because they differ a bit.
You're seeing less and less people turn out to vote, especially the younger generations are not showing up. And so this is a game that is like a losing battle. Once again, blaming the voters, and then also like really not having like a voting system that we can trust. And that most people that even like run for these elections are the older generation. And so I think that there's a lot of lobbyists going on, and that we won't see the people that are really trying to like make a difference in Congress to get to the places they need to go. It's already been bought and sold and you start seeing that, you start seeing patterns. And so have taken over the
bought and sold. Bought and sold. What do you mean? It's all because of Uranus's orbit. Trump won because Mercury was in retrograde. That's the reason.
over. And again, just like this last election, this.
How often is Mercury actually in retrograde? Because I know that's just like a meme, but oh, don't worry, guys, it's a website. And they are mercuryinretrograde.com is Ukraine Palestine aligned. Incredible.
This voting ritual, if you will. We saw that it doesn't really matter what you vote or who votes, because the people that are showing up to play the game are the elderly, and there is not a fair game to play. So we need to find other
that. Just
avenues.
real quick to follow up real quick. So there's other forces at play. I think I'm not hearing Rex deny that. But what would it take for you specifically, though, to say that there was a generational issue? In other words, what would it have to be demonstrated to you for you to accept that, okay, maybe there's some other forces at work here, and maybe even Rex would agree with some of that, but that there is a generational issue? What would it take for you to be convinced?
So obviously, I'm aware that there are generational gaps, and because we are all given a different playlist. I feel we're giving a different reality. So the Plutonian way, and I feel like we don't live in a democracy, we live in a Plutonian type of reality, that all these different generations are kind of given a different blueprint, and they're given a different reality of time, where they are propagated a different way, they are giving different directions and mind control that we are unaware of. And so there's definitely
true
a gap. And the oldest people to the youngest people, they're not going to see eye to eye because they have lived in completely different realities. The younger ones only see the future. They are completely fixed on their present and the future. And the older ones are looking.
Okay, while she's yapping, I'm gonna pee real quick. Don't worry, guys. I got wireless headphones though. I'll be listening to her while I pee. It's gonna be so great.
Back. Yes, a lot of them have regret. A lot of them wish they could have done things differently. And that's the human process of like hindsight and getting older. And so,
oh my God.
Yes, there's definitely a different generation gap. The different generations are going to have overall different policies, different morals, and different virtues. And that is even based off of the stars, including Pluto. That's transit, and Uranus, like I talked about. For Pluto, really stands for generation.
Whoever heard
20 years ago.
Thanks for the gifted sub, Testicle Johnson. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Welcome back, Testicle Johnson.
It's in Aquarius right now. That's why we are in the age of Aquarius. And so Pluto goes retrograde half that time. So half the population
Study posted, topical to peeing.
are going to go with the status quo that are born underneath that sign of Pluto in that sign. And the other half of the generation are going to oppose it. And so with every generation,
so is that all just a way to say, sorry, you just have a little time.
Socially contagious urination in chimpanzees. The decision to urinate involves a complex combination of both psychological. That's not psychological. Physiological. That's what it is. Physiological and social considerations. However, the social dimensions of urination remain largely unexplored. More specifically, aligning urination in time and the triggering of urination by observing similar behavior in others are thought to occur in humans across different cultures, and possibly also non-human animals. However, neither has been scientifically quantified in any species. Why do you have this study in any species? Contagious urination, like other forms of behavior and emotional state matching, may have important implications in establishing and maintaining social cohesion. Okay. Interesting.
Oppose each other.
So
monkey see, monkey pee.
Is that a way of saying that the generations' paths are kind of guided by the stars?
Maybe it's why women pee together.
It doesn't apply? Just a quick yes or no on that. Do you think
why wouldn't men pee? Are we less monkey?
It's mostly the stars and not so much choices?
No, that's just a tool. It's definitely choices. It's definitely energy, but the globalists definitely
it's definitely choices. It's definitely energy.
Take advantage of that and try to rope it in.
She said, but the globalists take advantage of it.
It's definitely choices. It's definitely energy, but the globalists definitely take advantage of that and try.
I'm confused. How did the globalists take advantage of the? Wait, Kofi, I delayed you. You did delay me. It's fine. It's chill. How did globalists take advantage of the other planets? Doesn't make sense. They're globalist. Seems to be a contradiction to the term.
Try to rope it in and utilize it to their
let's have Rex respond to that.
You assign a percentage of like astrology, the stars, the Uranus, the planets, the whatever, it moves things. And like is it like a 20%? Is it like a 75%? Is it mystical and vague and nobody can know? And if that's the case, I gotta say it's probably not real.
Like almost always 100%, Rex. When we see these patterns happen in society with these stars, with these planets aligning, it's always 100%. It's 100%. 100% you see the same patterns.
We got an answer on that. Rex response.
The same patterns with the generations. So the GI was before the boomers, right? And so we're seeing that the Zennials, I'm sorry, the Generation Z are in the same pattern as the DIs. So
Response to that, Rex, real quick. So you got an answer.
Is going to have the high.
Just real quick, I just want to make sure you get a chance to. I just want to make sure you get a chance to respond. So you got an answer. She said roughly 100%.
Hocus pocus, bongus tokus. That's all I have to say. You said it didn't matter. You said it was a tool, and then you say it's 100%. That makes your position illogical.
It's a tool. It's the oldest math, the oldest science. 100%. Yes, the same patterns happen. And I've been on this planet longer than you to see the patterns.
Okay, let's just pause real quick.
Who deny all these different tools that we have at our fingertips. It's ridiculous.
Right, so I'll give you the opportunity to respond, but before, just and because we're almost done with this round, we're going to go back to the open period. But before that, I just want to make sure we have a good sense of the boomers. You mean people who are born like roughly between the 40s and the 60s in the post-World War II era, correct?
Sure. So, it's a kind of a spiritual aspect. I'd say some of the older Gen X are definitely that way as well. The definition is 1946 to 1964. I do believe that's what.
Well, then that's interesting to me. Talk a little bit about that spiritual aspect of it, where it's like someone can be not a boomer but spiritually boomer. If there is a way for that to be true, what are the things that kind of encapsulate it?
Overconfidence in the American empire. It's a belief that America is the same America of immediate post-World War II, right? Where we are the global hegemon. We can go run around the world and be the world policeman and morally intervene and do all these things, where we just simply don't have the military production capacity and resources that we had 80 years ago, right? We are not the only manufacturing superpower. In fact, we are not even a manufacturing superpower anymore. China is. So a person could spiritually be a boomer if they support, neocon foreign policy, if they support giving money into entitlements to the old people specifically, but specifically the war. That's what's really destroyed this country, not just at home, but on the international stage as well. It's why our relationships suck with other world powers that are now in ascendancy. And that has overwhelmingly been a boomer foreign policy. Boomers made those decisions. Those are boomer senators. I listed, you kind of laughed it off. 60 out of 99 senators right now are boomers. You don't think they have outsized influence on,
We're the other generations.
So Mariah, you're going to have the first word on our next segment, but that was a very interesting crossfire. And I think that there's some things to chew on for the next segment, but I do want to just let everyone know that the time for this round is over. And because this is word war, we're going to jump into the next debate, all right, the next 15-minute portion. We're going to start the clock shortly, and we're going to start with Mariah. Mariah, what is your response to what you just heard and what happened during the crossfire section?
So these are good points, and I'm never, I'm always open to the fact that there's not one right or wrong. It's not black or white in anything, and that's always my approach. And so when you're generalizing that the people in Congress are primary boomers, and you're generalizing that voting has caused all this, that is just part of the spectrum of life, of how society even runs. There's all the corporations, there's all the old bloodlines. We are still dealing under the crown. We have not further scooted that far away from the crown. And you can tell by the people that are connecting online, and those are people from Canada, the United States, South Africa, Australia. We are all in the same boat because we're all under the same crown. So we're working with policies that are sort of skewed from the beginning. We are not a democracy. And you will see that this reset has happened.
OMG, this chick is just rambling. You wouldn't get it, Testicle Johnson. She's on to something that you couldn't even begin to imagine.
And that was 5 generations ago. And so our whole history has been erased, denied. We're all trying to figure it out. And so all these generations have been mind controls from the very beginning. It's called indoctrination. It's called public school. And this happened. Why do you think they called it the silent generation?
What could bro possibly be Googling?
Erased, denied. We're all trying to figure it out. And so all these generations have been mind controls from the very beginning. It's called indoctrination. It's called public school. And this happened with, why do you think they called it the silent generation? Our great grandparents, they weren't even able to talk because they were ripped out of their culture and given a new fake American history. And so we are blaming people that have no idea where they came from. And it has trickled down through generations. It's a wound that we all carry for generations, generational wounds. And so the reason I'm looking at all these generations and what's going on, I have compassion for every one of us because we've all been lied to. We've all been used. There's always a high in society and there's always a crisis. And now we are, and just like the turning of the seasons, the turning of the 4 seasons or the 5 seasons of Chinese traditional medicine or the
How is he still on this?
Celtic Druid paganism, the real reality, nature with man. And so when we go through these societies, we are in a winter, we are in a crisis right now. The winter follows fall, right? And so now what we're supposed to do is pay for the spring. Absolutely. Well, at the same time, when I have 5 seconds of a thought, just let me say it. Thank you very much.
We're trying to give you enough space. Let's.
What did she think that was 5 seconds?
To Rex. So generally, I'm asking you to engage with the notion that there's a lot of overdetermination. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that could be causing different generations to do everything. Disentangle it for us. Why isn't this just a matter of circumstance? Why isn't this greater powers at force sort of working their magic on the generation? And they're kind of robots.
Absolutely. So this is a debate, right? I don't grant the premise that voting is fake and that astrology is real. That's her worldview for her position as to why she's taking the negative in this debate. I believe that voting is real. I believe the segment of people in our population
voting is real.
30 years as the dominant voting bloc have.
Why would you do that?
I mean, it's just cause and effect. These people voted for policies that were essentially cheap credit for the country. It was a buy now, pay later scheme for their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And now we're having to swim in the wake of that. We're having to deal with that. Old people don't get drafted. Old people aren't paying into Social Security. Old people aren't having more children. Those are things young people are doing.
Technically, they did used to pay taxes on their Social Security income. Now they get a deduction for that. So they don't, at least for the next 4 years or whatever, within the big beautiful bill. But technically, that money did go back to the Social Security fund. So kind of owned on that one, buddy.
doing. And young people, instead of having those things subsidized, instead of being taken care of themselves, or at least not having to pay those taxes, they have to pay money, like protection money, to the old people, or else they go to jail. That is the situation. And when you say the planets and the Burning Man festival and all this stuff, it's not real. It's not real. And if it is real, it's of the devil. So I just don't care about it.
Brian, I know you want to respond to that, so why don't you go ahead and, but I do want you to get, before you get on the kind of metaphysical aspects of this.
You have to be like, please do not talk about Mercury again. Please do not talk about Uranus.
Spiritual aspects. Can you address the aspect about voting and explain why you think that there isn't a direct connection between like the choices the voters are making and like the policy? So take that one first, and then we'll let you chew on the metaphysical, spiritual aspect.
Well, right, that's to me. So for voting, yes. I don't think it's necessarily hocus pocus, but again, it's called casting a vote, right? And so there's a lot of ritual going on here. Now, I wanted to make this point when you say that the
so you don't get to.
Oh, why the fuck is he? That's the thing that triggered him. That's the thing that triggered him. Really?
Do that. This is a debate. Word concept fallacy. There's a moderator here, please.
Yeah, so the concept isn't like we're not trying to invoke casting spells or anything. Casting a vote is just another way to say submitting a ballot, right?
That's why it's called that.
I know, but like
if that makes you scared, then I'm pointing out the actual reality of why it's called that.
But the etymology of the word isn't really. Okay, so let's grant the etymology of the word.
What's really funny is why did that throw off the debate? Because they said casting a vote.
No, I think that what we're trying to deal with is like the concept of voting.
You asked me why I think if it's real or not, and I'm explaining it. So at the same time, at this point in 2026, the boomer generation is no longer the largest generation. The millennials are the largest population on the planet, and the Generation Z is after them. So the millennials are of age, of voting age. So why are more of them getting out there then and voting out the boomer policies? If voting is so important and if it's always truthful, there's no funny business going on with voting. It's not casting something, right? We all go to the polls to keep us in polarity. Go to the polls.
She had to throw another one in there. Oh my God. What other enlightening things do I not know about?
And what I'm pointing out is a word part of all this stuff. And so if the generation that is the most populated can't vote out these policies, then if voting's so important, you have...
This is the Chad strat at this point, okay? As much as he said retarded things too, okay, the Chad strat in response to this is just to light up a cig and...
The millennials and the Xennials way outnumber population.
Try to aura farm.
Generation.
But do you acknowledge they have different interests?
So please show up and vote. Yeah. And I'm in none of these generations, by the way. So I'm not.
Do you acknowledge that they have different interests? So another, I think, a useful example is the Massey primary, where you saw overwhelmingly young Republicans, people in the primary, vote for Thomas Massey, as opposed to the older generation who followed Trump's lead and his preferred candidate. So do you acknowledge that first before we go to Rex for a response? That there are different interests between the generations?
Oh, there's always different interests because they're living in their own generational reality, their own plutonic specific amount of time. So that's great. So many of them showed up to vote, but it didn't work, did it?
We got the answer there. We got the answer there. Appreciate it. Rex, why don't you respond?
Yeah, so you're talking about the millennials and the Gen Z, and you're saying, why don't they go out there? Why don't they vote? First, they're not the ones that are initially represented in government. You're saying, well, it's the biggest population. No, it's not. When you look at the government, especially the Senate, you look at the legislative.
But people alive, yes, they have the biggest population.
I just want to finish. Rex, go ahead, sorry.
5 minutes, I talk for 5 seconds, you immediately jump in, and I lose my train of thought. I really don't appreciate it. It's not professional. Okay.
So Rex, you were saying about millennials and Gen Z.
Yeah, so you're saying that, oh, well, they just don't vote and it really is up to them, to make the change. And I do agree with you there. However, you completely discount our experience of generational trauma, having to pay for all this shit and pay for all these wars and going through COVID, and dealing with all the things these old people brought onto us. Like I talk about paying into the Social Security all my life, starting at 15 years old.
Generational trauma. Really?
I'm never going to get that program. The people in government don't represent the electorate, the population. They represent the elderly, and they pass laws that are beneficial to the elderly. You deny this and say it's a part of like Pluto or something.
Plutocracy. If you looked up any philosophers, Aristotle, Pluto, that's what these people talk about, and that's why I bring up Pluto. And now you're generalizing me as being a boomer. I'm not a boomer. I'm not even Generation X.
Wait, when did we even discover Pluto? We didn't discover Pluto until like after we started using the term plutocracy, right? Yeah, 1930 we discovered Pluto. On February 18th, 1930, after nearly a year's search, Tombog discovered a possible moving object on a photographic plates taken from January 23rd and 29th. A lesser quality photograph taken on January 21st helped confirm the movement. After observatory obtained further confirmatory photographs, news of discovery was telegraphed to the Harvard College observation on March 13th, 1930. The object was immediately hailed as the ninth planet. However, its planetary status is questioned and eventually revoked. Yeah. Yes. What? Took a while to discover Pluto. I don't know when the term plutocracy, was was first coined, but it's like it was a few hundred years ago, was it not? First known use of the term in English dates from 1631. Yeah, but from ancient Greek, literally wealth and of power.
Okay, so I'm not even that much older than you. So I'm part of the same boat where I will also not see any Social Security. I know that there's a Turkish family using my Social Security number bank account from the oldest bank in this country, which is the New York Bank. And we all have a Social Security number and a bank account there. So I myself am in this very similar boat where I'm not going to see any of this. I have
New York Bank, social. So New York Bank about, is this what she's talking about? I don't know. I have no clue what she's talking about. Who knows?
Student loan debt that keeps piling up, and a lot of my colleges don't even exist anymore. So I tried the voting thing. I tried looking at these politicians and tried to use that avenue, but that's not a way to change the world. The way is to stop looking at Big Brother to fix the problems that they created, and creating your own mark and your own legacy for yourself and for your own generation. And obviously, health isn't working out for your generation. How old are you? You look way older.
He said he's 23. So Rex, why don't you respond to that? And if possible, can you invoke, because there was a concept of like, well, I'm not a boomer, and you had invoked a different concept of spiritual
Yeah,
boomers.
keeps treating me like I'm not even in that generation, but I am sticking up for them in this debate, of course, right?
Sure. So Rex, go ahead.
I gotta debate this guy and be a spiritual boomer to him.
You essentially implied they were heroes raised for war, raised for combat. You have that same neocon spirit within you where you excuse their behavior. They've voted and ushered in all of this stuff. I don't even know if we disagree. Maybe you don't even understand what's going on here. I really don't get it. Like, they, cause and effect, they voted for these policies that disenfranchise the future generations so they could benefit in the short term. And now we live in that reality. And all the statistics and the numbers and the wars and the deaths and the national debt, it all proves that. And no matter what non sequitur you throw out about the planets, or, talking about it's all generational, it's this, that, or the other. No.
We're talking about generations.
Excuse me?
How can you saying that it's not generational when that is what the debate is about?
No, I think that he's saying, invoking, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, Rex, that it's like cyclical and that it's not culpable conduct or anything like that. Is that right? Or is that what you are saying that there's a generational specific issue, Rex? You're just denying that it's like.
When I say it's generational, that's what we're talking about.
I just want to clear up any kind of like semantic confusion. But Rex, why don't you explain?
Go ahead and phrase the question again, because we're getting really
So you are not saying that it's not generational, correct? You are saying that there's a generational aspect to it. You're just denying the framing that it's something that they couldn't have done otherwise.
The boomers are the origin of the disease that's bringing down America. Anybody can be infected with it. A 20-year-old could have that neocon spirit within them. The origin of neoconism, it comes from the boomers.
Me for real.
These are boomers. These are Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, you name it, right? That's what I'm talking about here.
And can just real quick for my own identification, why do you identify the boomers with the generation of warhawks and neoconservatism as opposed to like the Woodstock, make peace, not war kind of deal?
Well, that's the great contrast, is they don't know the reality of war besides the ones that served in Vietnam. They're the ones that escaped service. They're the ones that didn't have to serve. The vast majority of them didn't when you compare it to the other generation, right? Their parents before them, right? So they have the same attitude that their parents had. They don't have any of the worldview for it or the understanding for it. So they just think, yeah, we can go invade a country.
Isn't that true of the younger generations today as well? But I feel like even number one, less people serve nowadays, just as a percent of the generation, because we just don't have many full scale wars going on. Even like in Iraq, like we haven't deployed many boots on the ground to Iraq itself. I think technically there were a few boots on the ground at some point to recover some fucking vessel or some shit. I forget the specifics, but Vietnam, we were there for not technically decades, right? Depending on how you define it, because initially we started like backing France, right? But I don't know when we first sent like troops there. It's a Wikipedia article. Began in the 50s, greatly escalated in 1965, held to withdrawal in 1973. Gulf of Tonkin was, what, 1965? Or it might have been before that. 1964.
and go kill 1 million people like we did in Iraq. And hey, it's all going to work out. It's all going to be fine because they weren't over there in the trenches in World War II. They were like 2 years old or weren't even born yet or whatever. But they grew up with all the movies, all the war propaganda, all the history. And that spirit is what's moved on forward into like, you can watch Top Gun from the 80s. You can watch Top Gun today. And it's military propaganda designed to get people to go enlist and support war and go fight in war, right? That's boomer then. It's boomer now. They originated that spirit.
APAC then, APAC now.
They didn't have the worldview. They were the most sheltered, coddled, and protected generation to ever exist in America.
Mariah, let's get your response to that, the boomer spirit aspect to it. And is that something that you also identify, or do you think that that's not real?
I mean, there's definitely, you know, if they grew up with war stories from their parents and then they got TV that was giving them all sorts of war propaganda, absolutely. But every generation after that has also. And their parents were known as the GI generation. So they were also kids of war, products of war. Like war is constantly going on. So to take one generation and isolate them and say that they're to blame why we have war today. They're to blame about the war mindset when it has been going on for generations before them. Okay, when this country started, 1776, this stuff has been going on for a while. Okay, so this is isolating one generation. And
real quick, so you just said war's ubiquitous, Rex.
Yeah, so war's ubiquitous. There's no difference between the Revolutionary War, the War 1812 versus the war in Iran or the war in Iraq or the war in Afghanistan or war in Vietnam. That's insane.
What is the difference?
Obviously, one is heroic and one is evil. And the boomers voted for us to fight in horrific, evil wars.
Incredible.
That's what they're responsible for.
I would take no slander of the gloriousness that is Top Gun, especially the aircraft carrier shot.
That's what you support.
I'm sorry, so you're saying there's a difference between war? Some of them
Simp for the military-industrial complex.
Are heroic?
Neocon. Boomer, spiritually boomer.
War is never okay in my mind. It's always a way to slaughter decent, everyday people.
Right, but even with the wars that boomers engaged in, or like the wars that boomers like were drafted in, I mean, heroic. I understand he would blame whatever other generation for that, but like Vietnam, they were forced to serve in Vietnam, which I don't think he would consider heroic. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong in that. There wasn't a draft for like the I guess Gulf War was probably too late for most boomers to serve in that, right?
For their own policies, for the globalists. It's never okay. What? War is heroic.
Correct. So we're going to end on your response to that.
Korean War is probably too early, I guess.
Talk about why the boomer wars are not heroic, and then we'll go to closings, okay?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you think 1 million dead Iraqis is heroic? Like, of course not. Absolutely not. I totally agree with you there. But of course, the Revolutionary War.
Having considered we only killed 1 million Iraqis because Jupiter was, what's another astrology term? Jupiter was in prograde.
Or we fought to win our freedom. That's heroic. The War of 1812.
We're still not free. How is it heroic?
It's
when
promoting.
people die and are slaughtered for.
One does not simply work for MIT and have aerospace degrees without staring at military planes for a few hours on end. This is called autism. Hate to break it to you.
It's heroic. Okay, so I see what's wrong.
There's justified conflicts, ma'am. You do understand this. I'm an anti-war political activist. But there are justified reasons to go to war.
So who's to say which wars are heroic and which ones aren't? You? Are you a 23-year-old? You can say this war. You've never had a part of any war. Why are you the one that say this last?
We're going to go to closings in a second. But Rex, finish that thought.
It was her originally who said war is ubiquitous. It's happened forever, implying that it's not the boomers' fault because it's happened forever. Right? My co-host is joining me here. He's about to have to get on live, so we have to cut this short really quick. Sorry, 30 minutes? Okay, in 15 minutes. Give me 1 second. So you were the one that initially said war is ubiquitous. It's kind of a condition or fact of nature.
Running.
Was that justified? Are you a fan of Hitler? Are you a fan of Adolf Hitler?
I told you I'm not a fan of any war. Absolutely none.
That's true. Unfortunately, we have to close right there and get to closings. I really appreciate the vibrant debate, folks, and we are, very obviously very thankful for your participation. And it's time now for closings. How do you think voters, watchers, these debaters are doing? Remember, you get to vote on the winner after this debate, so stick around for the links. Before we do that, we're going to cut real quick to our sponsors.
Tonight's Contender Series is probably
incredible. We might not watch the closings, but I want to find a picture of me real quick.
Because this is where you're going to crystallize your position and send your opponents packing. Mariah, you're going to go first because Rex started the debate, and so whenever you're ready, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So today was fun. My opponent Rex here has spent his time laying the entirety of the economic hardship at the feet of the single generation's voting record. He's a 23-year-old member of Generation Z. I'm right in between the cusp of Generation X and Millennial. So I understand somebody in Rex's position and his frustration of the economic reality of 2026 because his generation was handed a raw deal, and the anger he feels is entirely justified. But because of his youth, he's falling a little bit short of life experience, seeing.
Oh no! Oh no! She's doing the thing that they do to me, guys. That they do to me.
The different changes one generation can foresee in a lifetime, including the highs and the lows that every generation will see.
it's funny. I said this before, but shockingly, despite what like multiple people like told me on like Sarah, the Raising Tomatoes panel, I think on a few other like TikTok panels, guys, my opinions on things just have like not change after like working my job or getting my first paycheck. It's just like affected my views on immigration and unions and all of that stuff, like basically none. Like
and so this whole debate we talked about the voting and the boomers being completely responsible for the economic growth and plummeted and all the policy making, and that they're war mongering, greedy, and this is all we can think about generation boomers. But yet we have like forgot that they themselves were young people. Yes, maybe that they were giving showered this supposed gilded age right after their parents came back from war, but yet they were just bred.
I found it. Look at little young Don Fon here with his eagle and a military helicopter. This is how the boomer spirit was imposed into me as a young kid. I don't even know who this guy is, honestly. Could not tell you. I have no clue. Nonetheless, he imposed the boomer attitude into me.
For a new war generation, and the hippies, okay, they were just another opposition to the same in the same generation, creating two opposing forces, the soldiers and the hippies, to keep even them divided. And so during this debate, we talked about the 2008 housing crisis. We could even go back as
Did you?
as
Not that much.
but there's a cycle. The turning point, the books I talk about with William Strauss and how, right? These guys look at astrology because there's a pattern.
Okay. Kill me.
Oh, it's the sun, the moon, and the stars. It's not the people that have been the dominant voting bloc in the past 30 years of America. They've controlled Congress ad infinitum. And that's the thing I take the most issue with the premise of the debate, which is, are boomers responsible for the modern economy? I remember when I'm 15 years old, getting my first paycheck, seeing Social Security take out a bunch of it. I go, what is this? Oh, well, son, you're going to get it one day. Well, lady.
Why is this guy so obsessed with Social Security, Doc? Why does it? I don't get it. I don't get it. This is what people said would happen to me when I got my first paycheck. Which, to be fair, with direct deposit, I don't actually see on my pay stub 6.4% taken out for Social Security. Okay, but
I'm not. And because I'm not getting that, I feel robbed and aggrieved. That's what the older generation voted for. Not just voted for that. They voted to send me off to war. They voted.
I just wanted to work for the MIC. I'm even more pro MIC, partly because the mission is important, and partly because I know they're not as effective and dangerous as Tenku's claim.
To start a new conflict. The guy that I referenced earlier,
he wants valid.
That's who the boomers support. That's what all of this is. It's an elderly generation with more wealth, taking from a younger generation with less wealth, and sending them off to fight and die, and making it unaffordable to live in America and to have children, to have a house, to have a wife, to have a home. That's what all this is. So you're telling me, a young person that's been disenfranchised by this.
Yeah, the boomers are too NIMBY though, but I think like even like renters are NIMBY to some degree. Even like young renters are NIMBY just for like character of the neighborhood reasons and like status quo bias reasons, and like because people don't like developers. They just like don't like developers. They just think like landlords are evil and greedy, and like they'll be like less likely to support a given project if they are told that developers are going to make a large profit off of it.
30-year voter block that's, like had Washington in a chokehold. You're telling me, well, it's all the fourth turning and the sun and the moon and the stars and the voting doesn't matter anyway, but it's all nebulous. None of it is concrete. None of it is analytical. It's just, whatever excuse you want to make of it. I debated a boomer on the street. He told me, life is in living color. It's just another one of these non sequiturs, one of these metaphors that means nothing. The reality, the facts on the ground, these are the people that run our government. These are the people that vote to our government. These are the people that own our government. They've done so for the past 30 years and they are responsible for the decline. That's my close.
Thank you so much, Rex. And thank you both debaters. You've officially completed your debate in the contender series, and you said what you said, and hopefully argued your position enough to move some people on. Before we end, I just want to ask, Mariah, how do you feel about that debate?
The Rex guy did win, I'm pretty sure. Okay, this is not. Voting results. Yeah, he won by a lot. I also really love the ChatGPT generated images for just absolutely everything. Oh, Charsky won by a considerable margin. Wait, did Charsky win? He looks also. Listen, Charsky looks max to begin with, okay? But this ChatGPT filter makes him look fucking like angelic, bro. What the hell? I think he won by more, yeah. Rex only got 61%. Charsky got 79%. Damn. Was Phil also appealing to astrology or some shit? What the hell happened there? Also, it made her black. I just realized that. That's just... It totally fucking made her black. Incredible. Wokeness gone too far. Incredible. Bro, at Sheets where I work, I might have shown this on stream before, but like they also use AI generated images as like posters. Okay, I don't know why it's so small when I do that. Like this is also ChatGPT generated. You can tell it's got like the AI piss filter over it, bro. Like no human would choose these colors. This is 100% AI piss filter. Fucking ChatGPT generated, bro. Anyways, we'll check on a few of our buddies.
Pulled it off. Biden managed to pull it off by the skin of his teeth.
Our time for a charity golf tournament I was playing out with ChatGPT.
Biden was able to kind of run on the
Listen,
let's go back to normal shit.
I use AI, I like AI.
Moderate bullshit because
I just think, you know, at some
oh god.
At some margin, guys, okay. Okay. Like, it wouldn't be that hard to like make something in Canva, you know, and it just like wouldn't look that like that.
Picked Tim Walz.
When he's like violating our constitution or weaponizing the Department of Justice.
Here's my question for you though, Lucius, because if we were to spend let's say we gave ICE $80 billion, what would you expect the deportation numbers to be?
I assume high, because obviously no offense, I don't think I could like give a good guesstimate.
Yeah, like you don't need to say like a exact, like I would like 1,000,025, whatever per year. That's not it. My question is if the ICE budget
Funny when an MSC company uses it for something like that. At least it looked decent.
So dramatically. If it's increased so dramatically,
it's called efficiency, bro.
Why have deportation numbers gone down?
Well, Iggy, they're keeping them locked in cages, starving them.
Clearly because of the evil ICE, Alex Pretty, protest terrorism.
And you spread costs across more kilowatt hours, which pushes the average price down. But
oh shit, they have about data
centers?
It's
really interesting because they had 3 caveats, and those caveats in that. Those caveats in that. New demand proves less durable than assumed, or if fuel costs rise, and all 3 conditions are now present. So Goldman Sachs then projected that American electricity costs are going to rise 6% across this year, and next year around 3% by 2028, which is a reversal of the study's own findings, meaning that if Donald Trump just didn't fuck around in Iran and energy prices remained steady and there was no bind of energy prices.
If it's just these three factors could change it, then those factors, I want to say that's a reversal. Its findings were true. It's just that some of the underlying, not even assumptions, but some of the, they're just different mechanisms by which other effects are now dominating.
Like there's that too, but literally, if that guy just came into
If you three had the same understanding of what mean is, and I had a different understanding of what mean is, and say you guys quit existing, and I determine I'm going to write a dictionary and I'm going to put my own definition in there, my definition would now be the correct one.
No, you're wrong.
This is the point I am making.
You're wrong.
You claim. Oh my gosh! When you claim,
you're being intentionally
you can mute him
stupid.
again. You can mute him.
Incredible.
Did I fall asleep on the last live?
The Republicans in
This
office.
fucking comparison, it's so stupid. What are you guys in a fucking group and all say that this is your like excuse for the shit? It's what you all say now. It's like your guys' key go-to. It's just like the Tea Party. No, the fuck it's not.
Well, okay. So
just tell me which branch of government did the Tea Party advocate for?
That one seems somewhat interesting, maybe.
Your claim that it.
Here's the thing. I'm actually in it. It's not like the three members who are in the national leadership who decided what the platform was. That's not really that important. The question is, what do the thousands, tens of thousands, 100,000, like what do the members actually care about? Because you could have tarred people on the right in the same way and like, oh, well, someone said that.
No.
You know, I think it's about like what do people actually say? Like what do the candidates actually say?
Can you get to it?
Sure. So like if you want to argue about a platform, that is boring to me. Show me a candidate right now who's got a good shot like
Okay, interesting. Okay, people. There's like I think two, well, really like 1.5, like kind of pre-recorded videos I want to make. And then I got a school starting tomorrow, as in like tomorrow, Monday the 17th. It is still before midnight. Usually it's after midnight. But yeah, if you're lucky, there might be another stream sometime a bit later if I see something that triggers me on TikTok Live or whatever. But I'm gonna reach out to that Rex guy, try to set something up. I'm gonna see if I can set something up with Pisco, and then I think I just gotta call into Caden's stream one day, maybe tomorrow, because I think that's when I'm free when he usually streams, because he has not been replying to my DMs. But yeah. Hold on, let me make sure I'm not. What'd I say? Okay, yeah. All right. I'm not working tomorrow, so I will stream, but I do have school, so I gotta not be on the worst sleep schedule on demand. I'm gonna work on some pre-recorded videos and reach out to those people. So, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff as usual. Appreciate everyone stopping by and stuff. I don't think I have enough viewers to be worth rating anyone, so yeah, look out for the Not Fun streams. Appreciate it.